inch out a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, game on. All right, so I will bring this workshop for April 23rd, 2019 to order. Let's stand and do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, now I go back. Roll call, please, Twyla.
Yes. Councilor Ward?
Here.
Councilor Colby? Here. Councilor Brunel?
Here.
Councilor La Rochelle?
Here.
Councilor Albert?
Here.
Councilor Lunt?
Here.
Alrighty. So we're just going to kind of jump in. So the public services and community services, we're going to talk about that right now. I believe it's Memorial Day piece of things, and the American Legion are up. So.
Hi, my name's James Vayu. I'm the adjutant of the Post 158 American Legion here in Lisbon. And the last bunch of years, the budget has been $1,500, and I was asking just to increase it to $1,800. With the new parade stuff going on this year and next year, I'm just asking for an extra $300 to offset some of the cost. The reefs haven't increased a few years ago, and they may start increasing. The flags may start increasing in price, and so I just wanted to ask for an extra $300. I know we haven't really spent the whole $1,500 over the course of the last few years, but I just want to make sure that we keep that cushion. I think last year we requested what was left, and we donated it to the Lisbon Center Cemetery for the help with the groundskeeping. So it won't go to waste, but I just would like to increase it from $1,500 to $1,800 to make sure that we're in line for next year.
Do you remember offhand what you guys finished with for surplus last year or over the last few years?
I think it was like three. I asked Michelle, the finance officer, because she was working here at the time. I think it was between $300 and $500.
That was
somewhere between there.
Is that consistently every year that you're having for, or no? It's just that was built up over the residual. I'm trying to understand. Was it every year?
I don't know. I don't know if it was residual or not.
Okay.
I know the reefs run $55, $60 a piece, and we get 7. So
okay.
That takes up
Good little chunk
$420 right there just for the reefs.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, absolutely.
It begs the question, with the effort to do consolidated Memorial Day parade activities on this side of town, does it make sense to actually be considering an increase? And what does that $1,500 actually pay for? My understanding, what I thought it paid for was actually like police and that kind of stuff. Is that not the case, or what does the $1,500 go for, I guess?
I'm really not sure, other than the flags that we get for the graves and the wreaths.
We order those flags.
Huh?
We order the flags, correct?
No, we order the flags, and they ask for a PO number from the town. That's how I've been doing it. I don't pay them any money. Same with the wreaths.
Right, we pay for.
Right,
we'll get the bill and we pay it.
You get the bill and pay it. I order everything, and you get the bill and pay it.
I can easily look back and see what the balance is, what we pay them after that.
So, and understanding before, if there's an ask to increase, want to understand, I mean, if you're running right up to the line every year and using it all, then it makes sense to consider an increase so that there's not any overlap or run into the red. However, before we can do that, I think we want to get a better gauge. And I don't want to speak for everybody here. I'm just speaking for me when I say that. But I think that's what the approach we've been taking with every sort of department that we look at. And so we're absolutely, I think, big on supporting it. We just need to have the details, if you will, to understand it a little bit better. That's all.
I guess the way I would approach that for the town manager would be put it on the future discussion so we can flesh out what is the $1,500 pay for now,
Right.
to justify the ask.
And I'd like to see the previous years too, to see if that's consistent. If they're only spending $1,000 every year, then what do we need to go to $1,800 for? Or if they're mostly spending $1,500 and last year was an anomaly.
And it's commendable that you folks donated with the surplus to the Lisbon Center folks for the maintenance of that cemetery, because we had to talk about that in the last 18 months, so we understand that there's some challenges over that way too.
And until last year, I didn't know that we could actually request that. So I don't know if it was all surplus or if it was just washed it from one year to the next.
Right.
So whatever we had left, we didn't spend anyways.
So I think that's what we want to look at. So we'll just get a kind of a picture of what's happened over the last few years. Town manager will be able to pull it together, and we can look and see where you guys are landing. And if there was one way or another, we could talk about what that looks like. So I think what I'm hearing from everybody, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that we have a list that we put things in a parking lot and come back at the end of the budget cycle and kind of talk about that. You give the town manager some time to get that information together for us to review. So we'll definitely put that in the parking lot and kind of come back to it after we review those numbers, and we can let you know.
May I ask?
Absolutely.
Is there anything with this year's parade that's going to be more costly than in the past, do you think? I know you're doing a little different procedure, so.
We wanted to get some convertibles and put some veterans from each era. Obviously, we can't do World War I because I don't think there's anybody still from World War I, but we're trying to do 5 cars. So we bought banners for 5 cars for the different war eras, 1 for each side, so a total of 10 banners, and that costs us $300.
The big banner
and the big
cost?
banner costs us $985.
This year that you actually incurred those costs?
We looked into the banners, and they were going to cost like $500-600 just to buy it and put it up, and then we wouldn't be able to reuse it. So we had a quote for a 1720, someplace in Brunswick, to do a banner that we could actually have the date changed every year. For a nominal $45-50, which is better than spending $500 a year. But we found another place in Bodenham, Banana Banner, and they doing the same thing for $985.
Nice.
I guess I would just ask if there's
So-
any increased costs this year to actually to forward that along too, just so we can make sure we use those and we start looking at those numbers. So.
I know where you can get a World War II vet, and he's got a really nice 70s car as well. He's got his own ride already.
Well, we are looking for another car, 1 or 2 cars. So
Arnold Booker. He's at the top of the hill right up from where you guys are at on Webster Road.
Arnold Booker.
Yeah, he served in the Navy in World War II.
Okay.
He lives on Arnold Drive.
Yep. Camille, it's the whole. They get their whole compound up there.
Okay.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, on to public services. We'll start with Western Maine Transportation, I guess. They are up.
Good evening. Thank you very much for inviting us in tonight. Thank you to the town of Lisbon for your great partnership with the Lisbon Connection. Give some credit where credit's due. We achieved funding from the county for the first time this year, and I want to say thank you to Alan and to Mark for their just terrific support and leadership with the county. Without the two of them, we would not have been successful. Alan, your words really opened up.
Took us 2 years, but I'm glad
Yeah.
the tone changed with LA.
Man, it was so greatly appreciated. And this is helping us to move forward and create a more unified regional transportation model. So this year, we're requesting $42,000. It's an increase of $2,000 to increase the capital reserve. We did get a new bus for you all this past year. It's doing really well. Passengers are reporting they like it very much. In terms of how we're doing for ridership, we had a ridership of 4,977 for fiscal year of 2018. So far, year to date, for 6 months, we have 2,286. That's down 199 from last year, but weather was a significant factor. And also last year, we were transporting a number of students to the Christian school, and they're not riding this year. So if you take those two into account, we're either at or above where we would have been historically. The new Lewiston Auburn to Brunswick commuter route that we were hoping we'd get started earlier. Because the state has had such a hard time purchasing buses, Sandy has asked me to let you know, excuse me, that we are targeting a Q1 2020 for that service. We'd love to do it sooner. If we can, we will. But for right now, we don't think we dare promise it before then because we don't think we'll have the iron available to us. And again, this is a bus ordering problem is statewide. All the transportation providers are in the same circumstance. The Topsom Shoppers Run that was requested has run twice now, each time with 4 riders each, keeping in mind that the first one was during inclement weather. We're very happy with that. Today's Shopper Run had 8 people aboard going to Auburn. It is the highest in memory. So that was great. I guess at this point I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have, but the other thing I wanted to say is thank you to Tracy and Steve and everybody else for their help both getting the livery sorted out for the new bus and for allowing us to park at Public Works. That's working beautifully.
Chair, may I?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm using my calculator to try to do some math here, so go ahead.
I figured just text them over.
Yeah, that too.
As we asked everybody, that 40,000, can you kind of give us a breakdown of what that actually represents? Is that just offsetting some of the costs for the labor, or?
So the $42,000 does a number of things. It first goes to the direct operation of the service, but it's also applied as match to draw down federal funding, which is approximately 2 to 1. So for every dollar that you put in, we get approximately $2 back from the feds. It's a little bit better than that, but when you average in the various grants that go together to make that happen, that's what it comes into. Everything that we are requesting goes specifically to the operation of the Lisbon Connection. We are very proud to let people know that our ratio, or our, not really a ratio, a percentage of expenditure going to anyone who is not turning a steering wheel, not turning a wrench, not answering the phone to get people scheduled, is around 7.5%. So that's what would be referred to normally as an administrative cost. Everything else goes directly to the operation of the system, whether it's driver's wages, maintenance, fuel, and other such things. Yes.
One of the, so looking at the ridership that you had, say 4,000, or say it would be in that range, and what would it actually? What do you think the overall cost of actually running that bus run? I take it the bus sounds of things come from the state, federal type.
Right, I can get you the exact amount. Diane, did we send, at one point I thought we had sent you a financial sheet, but what I can do is I will send that and Diane can distribute that to you all.
Yep.
I just did some quick math based off of that. You said 4,977 for fiscal year 18.
Yes.
And so it wasn't too hard to go ahead and just take that 40K divided by that 4,977.
Yeah.
Breaks down about $8.04 per rider is what we kick in. And you're saying that our contribution is for every one that we kick in, you get 2 in the federal.
That's correct.
All right, good. Just want to understand that a little bit better and put some perspective around what the cost is to us when we break it down versus per ridership. We might see that increase a little bit based off what you've said to year to date. We're not close to the halfway point, but,
Right.
yeah.
And ridership varies radically year to year, depending where you are, although the Lisbon Connection's been fairly stable over the years. As other services are being tweaked this year, we may find that connections that people want to make will be further supported. That may increase ridership. Again, the entire goal that we're setting for ourselves and Maine DOT has set is to find ways of making public transit more relevant to getting people to work and to higher education opportunities, and at the same time not abandon people who are using it for general services, shopping and whatnot, and healthcare, of course. So we think that the Lisbon Connection is well-positioned, and we're looking forward to a great year.
Do you actually see any reverse riders, like people coming from Lewiston or Auburn into Lisbon? Or
Yes.
Yeah, so, and what's a percentage you think of that?
I couldn't tell you. We have the figures. I could probably go through and parse it.
I was just wondering if there was actually almost an equal or
No,
somewhat.
it's not equal, but there are people who come here, a couple for employment, a couple for services, a couple for family, we assume, personal reasons.
Craig's previous presentation to the council, it was interesting.
You are.
Oh, that's what I was just kind of curious
Yeah.
about, yeah.
That was one of the key things that stood off. The other thing that stood off for me was, yes, we have the Lisbon connection that has an established route and time, but the ridership for specific parties that are along like the Route 9 corridor for doctor's appointments and stuff, that was that number really stood off. It may, in theory, only be less than 100 people, but the number of times that they're having to do that throughout the course of the year, I look at it like library. It's like it's the need within that for the social service.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. No, I think it's actually good.
Well stated.
Yeah.
Well stated.
And the other question I had was, I guess there was some, and I don't know what level the county actually supported it. It's probably the first time.
42.5. So my question to Craig was, based on that effort, did you see any other communities
Like Lisbon comes forward? I know we've been ahead of that, and the fact that the last couple of years we have been supportive even when they weren't.
What I would say is that there has been some discussion started.
Okay.
Where it's going to go, I really couldn't tell you, but I am hopeful.
Okay. That's good, because, I mean, there were 2 years ago when we started this conversation, Mark can attest to it, it was like crickets. I might as well just have farted in church. They wanted nothing to do with the topic at all. And the tone this year was radically different. It passed the commissioners straight out of the gate. It was the budget committee that we actually had the adversarial approach associated with it. Because one of the things that LA understands now is the fact that for every buck we put in, the Fed's putting in a buck too. So just within LA, you're doubling your money for anything that's taken it off their transit system as well too.
Good deal. Good information. Thank you.
You had mentioned specifically the work and the education opportunities. How is that promoted here to our Lisbon residents? I'm just curious.
Well, the answer is that we are just beginning to get to the point of promotion, but the bus schedule itself was originally tailored to get people to work with its earlier and later scheduling times and the calmer center of the day. As the year progresses, you're going to see more messaging, both from Western Maine Transportation and from, I believe, Maine DOT, from what they've said, talking about how public transit in the state is being retooled to meet the needs of employers who are finding it harder and harder to find people, whether it's lack of skills or just people who can't get there because they've lost a license. Maybe it's an older worker who's decided to hang up their keys. But public transit is being seen as part of the solution to the lack of workers.
And I absolutely appreciate what you're saying, and that DOT is going to take a broad message and go run with it across the state. I'm looking more for a pinpointed kind of focus on how we can let the folks know here in our community.
I think that's a good question, and I think that, again, as we're spooling up to get that message out, if Tracy will allow me to lean on her, I'll be asking for ways that she thinks that we can reach out best to the community. We only recently were put into a position where we can now access what's referred to as RTAP money for marketing and for publication of different materials on this. So this is all what's in the pipeline and on its way, but it's a great question.
That's awesome, because I think that the increased ridership obviously is a boon for you folks, and it's definitely a boon for us. We're allowing people in our community to be able to get those education opportunities and job opportunities.
I think it would be a good opportunity, too, to even speak to our school system, because I know I know my son, when he was in school, was in a special program. They actually took a couple days throughout the week and actually traveled on the public bus to say, look, you can get there if you want to. And I'm not sure how many kids in our high school actually knows there's actually a way to get to Lewiston Auburn if they wanted to, if they just wanted to take the bus.
It's a really great question and a great point. And we have actually done that in some other schools, so great thought.
It's just one of those things where if you want to go shopping, here you go. Right?
Well, yeah, and to hear that there's some available funding for marketing and that you're just starting to tap into that potential.
We are.
Is great. Perfect. Thank you for answering my question.
I think we could do some marketing right here at the town office or at the library and, place like that around town.
Absolutely.
It would be a great way. People might see it, wouldn't even know it exists, and see, okay, this is an option. I can use the bus.
Correct.
Website.
Anything that you can do to help us help you through Diane and Tracy, by all means.
Great.
Perfect. So just to recap, 2K increase is what you're saying.
2K increase.
Thoughts?
I got no issue. I've been his biggest supporter for the last 3 years with what he's been doing for us locally.
Anyone else?
I think if it's well used, I think it's worthwhile. Absolutely.
And as always, anytime any of you thinks of something that we can do to increase the effectiveness or the value of the system, either through Diane or directly, reach out to us. We're very open to thoughts, and we don't ever pretend that we have the only answers.
I do want to pose devil's advocate question because I think it's important that we look at it from all angles. So if we were to not just to say to the increase, but just say we're not going to participate anymore, we were to pull funding completely out, what kind of impact would that have?
Bus would stop rolling.
Just not in just our community, elsewhere as well, right? Or just
That bus.
Well, this particular funding is only for the Lisbon connection, so it would only affect this route.
good. It's important to get that out.
Sure.
Yep.
No, it's a good question, and a lot of people. Well, so to clarify something, in years gone by, Maine DOT was in a position where if a community that had a service decided either for a certain period of time or permanently not to fund it, they would generally find a way to step up and help fill part or all of the gap. As of last year, we were advised that that was no longer the case and that we would no longer be expected to continue that service to the detriment of the organization, keeping it open and working for the communities that were contributing. That is both a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing in that it forces more responsibility. It's a bad thing in that in towns where there's a lot of need, someone may not have access to a service that's really something they count on.
Somebody puts a price tag on ridership.
Yeah, it does.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all so much.
Good evening.
Thank you, sir.
Alrighty. Right along. We got next. Where's I got to go out of order here. Assessing. Come on down.
Wow, skipped over codes?
No, I got a clear path.
Okay.
Twyla's keeping me on task.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Good evening.
Hello. Do you have any questions or not a whole lot of change? Probably the biggest increase was in the mailing and that's because of the tree growth letters. I probably have about a dozen and they have to go out certified, and each letter, they get a series of 3 letters over a year, and they have to go out certified, so that's something that's out of our control. And I think certified is like 7 something fees.
The postage just went up again too in January.
Did anybody have any specific questions of Kathy? I went through this, as you guys know, and I saw nothing, so.
I seen that. I didn't know if you hadn't got there yet. But.
No. Nothing.
I'd like to say that, last year you did an increase with, me getting a part-time person, and I can't imagine getting by without her.
That was one of the questions I was going to ask. I was like,
we're doing things the way they should be done. You're not always playing catch-up. And she is such a good fit. She really tries to make sure she splits her time evenly, the best that she can. And I'll tell you, that counter over there, the tax counter, I've never seen it where they get along so well. It's really, she's really, really a good fit.
Good.
So.
Good to hear.
That's good.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for bringing that forward, the improving process. It's much appreciated.
I'll just mention, I won't get into it too deep tonight, but our certified ratio has dropped to 86%. That's what the selling, compared to our assessed values to the selling price. And that's from the state. They do ratio studies, and that's what it is. So to keep our reimbursements at 100%, to keep the homestead at the 20,000 veterans exemption, probably going to need to factor up our values a little bit this year. And it will only be on residential. One, I think the commercials, I think they're fine. And two, we don't have the sales to justify a change to the commercial values. But we certainly do with residential. You know, I can run any number of reports to show you that, you know, how far we're falling.
Do you feel that's more of a trending? Or because, I mean, next year it could actually go a different route that we would have to regroup
Well,
again, you think, or?
this is, since we did the reval, sales prices have increased over the last 4 years. And in the last 6 months, they've gone nuts. I mean, they really have. So they need to be brought up. Some is, as long as we come up to 91, 92%, we can still claim 100. Because as long as you're within 10% of the 100, you can claim 100. So
Your evaluation is current enough that you could do that with a broad brush and actually just do as a
yes.
town-wide?
Yeah, because I have tried to run reports on older homes, new homes, two-story homes, and it's everything. Everything has gone up. So
Interesting.
Can
So,
you
go ahead.
give us the absence of a full reval? What is the mechanism to adjust somebody's valuation unless it's a specific sale?
it's a factor, just like we did back in, I think, 2010. It's just a mathematical factor. You take all the residential homes and you factor up their value by like 1.10 or 12 or
So
whatever.
it's these kind of situations that you're experiencing right now, so you do an adjustment?
Yes.
And how long does that adjustment typically
Well,
hold?
it depends on the market. It's all market driven, you know. I think I read an article today where they said the sales aren't dropping, but they're kind of slowing down a little bit. So, you know, maybe,
Yeah, as the interest rates go up, the pricing
prices,
on
so
the
to speak,
houses
haven't
drop
dropped,
because
the
it's a
sales have
shortage.
actually leveled up.
Oh, it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
So I think if we do a small adjustment this year, you know, we'll be good, because I'll tell you, when someone that's been getting a $26,000 exemption, you know, that's the combined veterans and homestead, and they don't get that.
Right.
Yeah, there's a balance, yeah.
Yeah, no, and it's, those folks that are getting that traditionally are the folks that are the ones who most need it.
Yes.
So keeping that in mind, give me a little bit, I know that we were kind of late to the dance as a community to realize that we probably should have done a reval a little bit more consistently, and then we had to do that reval, it was painful.
Yes.
So now, since we're 4 years out from that, what's a traditional great schedule to be on as a community for reval?
The state recommends about 10 years,
Okay.
probably.
So we're only 4 years in, so we've still got 6 to go.
Yeah.
So this is basically a way to say, in order to keep those, the homestead and the $20,000 exemption for whatever, I can't remember, but anyway, yeah, thank you. In order to do that, we have to be within that 100%. Right now, we're 86, so
Yeah.
we got to at least bump up to the 90 spot, maybe 91.
91,
And then
92.
it's a
Yeah.
crapshoot from there. If we could be doing this every year, then theoretically, between now and the 10-year mark.
And, you know, maybe not next year, but a couple years out, the market,
They cycle
that
down.
bubble's going to burst at some point,
Right?
and, you know,
Yeah, that would
that'll
be the
buy
first
us
thing I
more
would
time.
say. And the first thing I would say is that 10-year recommendation from the state is subjective as heck.
And that's fine. I'm just using some milestones. I'm not saying that we have to live and die by the
Right.
10-year, but I just want to kind of, if I'm mapping things out in my head, and we're 4 years into this thing, and we have to make an adjustment because the market's,
Yep.
it's a good problem to have. That means
Yeah, it-
people are excited about buying homes here. But at the same time, we got to meter things out accordingly.
We, as always, I mean, everyone's in the circumstances. There an average of what the other communities in Androscoggin County have been raising theirs to make a difference, because they must be all kind of in the same boat, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know who just did a reval or who's in the process of doing a reval, and maybe their markets aren't as hot as Lisbon's has been, it's really been quite intense for 2-3 years, so.
It's a good problem to have. We're
Yep.
just going to justify
Yep.
how we do it.
Yep, yep.
The only thing we see at the county, and it's a year out, is that we see every other community in the county because it's factored in to that percentage. One of the things that Mark and I look at is what did ours do compared to somebody else?
Yeah.
It was 6.83 or something like that the previous year. I don't remember what this year's was. Did our percentage go up for the whole basket of goods or less? Because you get an indicator of how everybody else is compared to them. I know with the $6 million switch that we did
I was going to say that may be screwed, but
that's going to be coming through too.
by the tips and stuff like that,
Yeah,
so.
that's going to play something.
So if
Interesting stuff.
at any point you want more information on it or anything, just let Diane know and I can pull stuff together for you.
That's really your choice to make, though, isn't it? I mean, that's really.
Yeah,
not a
it is,
decision
but
for
you
Yep.
need to be warned because.
Yeah.
I have a question on medical insurance. It
Yep.
goes from 28, went down to 12. What's
Yep.
the reason for that?
Because I had my youngest now is gainfully employed and has their own insurance. Yay!
Thrown from the nest, right on.
And
Fine.
No,
and
thrown.
Amy is under her husband's insurance. So.
Okay, so that's
Yep.
yeah, good savings there.
Yep.
Tell them we said thank you.
Now just find an apartment for them. Yeah.
Do you want her to touch on abatements before she leaves?
Might as well.
So we're raising 10,000 again for abatements, which is what we've been doing right along.
Yes.
And
Yep.
typically, we spend pretty close to it. Sometimes we may go over, but we also have supplements on the other end to offset it, so.
Yeah, I did a quick tally, and this year we had 13,000 in abatements, but we had 6,500 in supplementals.
Yeah. So when you net it together, we're
Yeah.
still okay.
Yep.
Leave it with that as is. She's done.
Anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Tracy with Economic Development is up next. Good evening.
In regards to my budget, there's not a whole lot of changes. I think one of the ones you'll see is for the advertising. Because we've been so successful within our grants and promoting the community, I like to go out further in doing some marketing. And that is for the advertising, I would like to entertain having somebody come in and do a promotional video of the community, what we have going on, that I can use, whether it be for trade shows or whether it be for the website or basically any time that I'm out there and promoting the community, that I would have that.
A lot of red ones, man.
Postage went up a little bit because that's, figuring that's coming at the federal level as far as an increase in postage. Other than that, if you got any questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, absolutely.
5244 Moxie. Is that my understanding, Diane, that is a revenue item in Mark's side for the 20 grand that you're talking about?
The Moxie right now is any of the expenses and revenues that come in, they're in their own fund.
Okay.
So the 20,000 that you earmarked from the TIF, we've put that into that fund.
Cool. So it's just removed from economic
Yeah,
development
it's-
and it's picked up.
And it's
its
not
own
even
animal.
showing on the general fund side at all. It's not showing in expenses and it's not showing in revenue. It's in its own fund.
But for the listening public in
Yeah.
the corner, the 20,000 that
Yeah.
we've talked about has been secured.
Yes. And Lydia's, before she left, she made the transfer.
Perfect.
That was a good one for me.
Nickel and diming, I just looked at the professional development. I know that that's an active item for local. I'm just looking at what we currently spend and the trend associated with that over the past 3 years. So you can get back to us on that for future
Say
consumption.
that again now. I was making a note.
5121, professional development, the 3,500. The fact that it just, I'd like to put it at where we tend to be, but if it's going to be, the current trend is going to reverse itself, we have better information, I
Yes,
wouldn't be
yes,
opposed to leaving it as is either.
okay.
I just have a question, because I'm not familiar with it. What is the Lisbon Business Breakfast Forum?
So I had started that before as far as on having the businesses invite them to come in and have speakers. I've done some networking with them. Last year we did an evening one. Furniture Superstore had housed that. So it's just basically covering costs for whether it be coffee or refreshments and that. But it's an opportunity because a lot of our businesses, they don't have the opportunity to really do any type of networking because they're very small companies and sometimes it's just like 1 or 2 people that are there. So in trying to do something to bring them all together, kind of like a chamber breakfast, if you will, or, business after hours type of thing, it's a way for the businesses in Lisbon to connect with one another and do their own networking. So trying to do a little bit more of that.
Mr. Chair, what line item is that covered under?
It is under the 5122 account, meetings, dues, memberships, $3,000.
I like the public outreach. One of the things that I am looking at in the written reports is how many businesses we're visiting and those kinds of things. I guess my question to follow up with the chair, what's the intent? How many are we trying to do of those forums? Because I think that's a perfect opportunity to be able to get people that you wouldn't actively see on a day-to-day. So if we could, I remember, I'll go back to when I was running for the first campaign, the fact that you had a room with 40 contractors sitting here. That's cool.
Yeah.
You get 40 contractors telling us what we can be doing better in this community. There's good things because that one breakfast meeting actually led to demolition standards that actually will never have another Graziano Square left the way that Graziano Square was left. That's good public outreach that actually can be put to use, so I would applaud that effort to continually put that out there throughout the course of a year.
That's Graziano Park to you.
Park.
Sorry.
Have a picnic in the
Thank
park.
you.
I'm just kidding.
No, it's good. It's Graziano's. Everybody knows the park that I'm
That's
talking
right.
about.
No, that's good stuff. And thank you for asking my question, because I was going to.
That's right.
Mary Francis.
Hey, there you go. That's it. That would be a nice place for one of your first one of the first practices in the new park.
Absolutely.
Gazebo and
Absolutely.
sure house.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And
sidetracked.
the idea of it is, and I'm open to any suggestions as far as from council, even some of the business folks, when I reach out to them and say, give me some ideas. SBA, I met with Bill Card, and he wants to do something on SBA and all of their programs. So he and I are working on putting something together for that. So folks, if they want to learn anything, if they're looking for any type of financials and that sort of thing, it's also the opportunity for us to promote what we have within our loan program.
Anything that has that community outreach appeal to it, even if it's quarterly or something, to be able to plan accordingly, I'm all over it because I can even cite, the first chance meeting, Blue Ox Malt was one of those sessions associated with that. I mean, the fact is, anything to get somebody in the community and they're interested, I don't want to slow their roll. So, by all means. Thank you.
I have a question. I see it here, and I meant to ask it. So, any event that happens in the MTM park, that power pole, that's an expense that falls under your umbrella?
Yes.
Okay.
It was something that was there prior to, and it just makes sense because it is for a community type of thing for community events. So we took $15 a month basically is what it amounts to.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. I'm trying to understand it. That's all. Okay. That's fine. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else?
Anyone? Bueller?
You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, good work.
Well, I've got you here, and just one more thing as far as in doing this in some of my funds is that, again, getting back more to the marketing aspect of things is Build Maine is coming up in June, and we've got a great opportunity to, again, showcase Lisbon, and that's where I want to spend some of my marketing monies in doing a class act in the way of display so that we can set it up for different things, and I can go to chamber events or I can go to trade shows and I can showcase Lisbon just as Lewiston and Auburn does.
Have you started to do some previewing from other communities who maybe have used the same tools to market their communities?
Yes. I mean, I've seen different ones around, even Poland, for as small as Poland is, that they did a really nice job as far as in their marketing materials. And that was all I have is one that sits on top of a table. It just kind of folds out, and then I'm trying to do the pictures and stuff, and you just, post it on the board, whereas the others have the full-size type of displays, that they work with somebody that can kind of pull that together. Just more professional. And again, with the video and trying to market the community, this is the time to do that, is because everybody knows what's going on in Lisbon and everybody's paying attention to what's going on in Lisbon.
I really like the video idea because I think it could be on a loop on the website.
Exactly.
Splashed anywhere. I think we have some great local talent who could provide drone footage. I can think of two people who do a fantastic job right now just through their own social media campaigns. So we could probably grab up some great footage from them and then maybe incorporate any other footage, things that you may have as far as a vision that you want to capture.
What I'd like to, exactly, and what I'd like to be able to do, that would be something that I would put out to bid as far as, because there's a certain way that needs to be done. I want it to be where we can interview folks, residents, where we can interview some of the businesses and get those sounds, shots and stuff in there, and then have it be put together professional.
Who better to shoot our community than people who live here?
I agree. And you're right, there is the talent here, but going through the process of doing
No, understanding that we have an absolute responsibility to go through the bidding process, yes. Couldn't agree more.
All right, thank you. Anything else? Very good. Then you get to the game.
Yep. Dennis, it's all you, sir. And good evening.
Good evening. Where's he start?
Direct me on the direction you want to go. I got 5 or 4 or 5 of them here.
I think we got the order we have is Town Buildings, Planning Board, Health Officer, and Appeals Board.
Cool. No code enforcement tonight would be perfect.
Oh, yeah, it's there. It's just
That's there.
Oh.
Not getting out of it that easy.
But I like how you try to.
So you want to come back for a second night?
Sure, why not? So you want to start with town buildings, is that what you were saying?
I think that would be great. Thank you.
All right, well, that's a lot, so I'm not sure what you want, where, I can
However you feel.
answer
Why don't you
questions.
just give,
Mason
what's
goes-
not in here for the priorities for the coming year for buildings in
That's
general?
the biggest issue, is we got some pretty serious issues that we're facing here that, to discuss. I'm not sure you want to go with that, but if you want me to hit you with the biggest stuff that we're dealing with right now.
Hit the priorities for you.
So priorities, well, if you want to go with the biggest one, for years we've been dealing with this HVAC system here. It's been discussed and talked about. We spend a lot of money on
Budget 20 grand a year. So
keeping it running and everything else, right? So I do have complete package in from Patriot Mechanical, who've taken all the town plans, done all the work. It's actually quite a lengthy description, but they have priced out to completely redo the HVAC system in this building.
Happens.
I guess to simplify that, in more or less controlled units in every office, so you control your own heat AC. Actually, to simplify it, heat pumps, but much more advanced type heat pump system. Just to get an idea of where that would be if we have to go in that direction. So the number came back at $475,000.
That's a referendum.
Which, did not include the electrical work.
I'm not laughing because that's funny. This is a nervous laugh. I'm scared.
So the electrical work on top of that would go on
Right.
top.
And
That
it
would
says
be
that.
fairly substantial.
Right.
And they feel the reason why we should jump right on this, because we can take advantage of huge rebates right now, which total $58,000. So in the grand scheme of things,
It's
half a
still a
million,
referendum.
$58,000. That's, so anybody wants to see that, there's the first. We haven't shopped to other people, but they did an excellent job on preparing it.
So it's not about the project itself, it's about the price tag, is what you're saying?
I think, yeah, we haven't been putting anything from a capital improvement, but that's a $500,000 job. So
For one building.
I feel we're going to be limping along for a while and trying to figure
All
out.
right, what's door number 2?
So the other one, the biggest issue right now, let's see, stay on the town office is.
No. Back to that topic.
Yes.
If we're not going that full scale, is there an option to be able to start phasing some of this stuff in to at least be considered? Plan B with that same topic. Because this system here still sucks.
Shoestrings and duct tape, how much do we need to keep this thing alive?
Well, right now we have a furnace that was down all winter in the PD, and they limped by with some electric heaters in the back room, which has to stay to a certain temperature to protect their electrical equipment they have for imaging or something. But anyways, I didn't spend the $6 or $7 grand to fix that because we were waiting to see if we're going to change the whole HVAC. Well, this number came back, so now we're going to spend the $7 grand to fix their boiler. With that said, it's a matter of just staying on top of it and limping it along. So as things come up, we fix them. I don't have a guess there.
Are we still perpetuating, so everyone that we fix is just waiting for the next one to go down and we're doing nothing?
No, yeah, we're just chasing this all the time. Yes.
Okay.
This is it's been going on for years and years. It's a constant chase. The stuff's outdated. It's.
There's no alternative that's suitable for the ones that crap out. Can we do them one at a time, kind of thing, and sneak them in that way, or?
Well, I guess we could start looking at that. The issue is you're kind of replacing old with old, and you're not bringing it up to.
You're not fixing
today.
You're not addressing.
One of the biggest things with doing this, after you absorb the $500,000, if we were to do that, is some of the energy savings you're going to start seeing from a much more efficient system. I wouldn't be able to even, they'll claim it'd be huge energy savings, but I played with energy my whole life, and there's never been a miracle cure for energy, but.
Right,
again, it would be more
every time
efficient.
somebody talks about energy savings, I just say energy cost containment. Because the fact is, they're still going to increase 30% every 2 years anyway. So all you're doing is trying to keep up with what you were paying 2 years ago.
Right.
Everybody wants 70 degrees and everybody wants cold in the summer, right?
So I was hoping under 200, and then I choked when I got the real
I am
number.
going to reverse. This still needs to be addressed. I would like to put that on a future capital improvement plan. It's not even on that for even discussion. So the fact is, just us bearing it because Dennis did the work and we do nothing with it doesn't help the process.
This building's 20 years old, right?
It has been neglected for 20 full years, honestly.
I mean, I think that's a valid proposal. It's just a price tag that we're not prepared to deal with right now.
I would actually, if I may, Chair, it's to have done a lot of work, and they probably actually don't see the light at the end of the tunnel because they actually spent a lot of time doing it. But if they have the numbers and stuff, more of a stepped-in type of procedure, like
that's what I was hoping to hear.
In a 5-year period.
Can I do this wing this year? Can I do?
Well, and I can ask that and say could it be phased in and done in increments, right?
75 or 100,000 a year.
I haven't asked that question yet, so I don't know.
We know the PD actually has some concern, so if we were to put, say, $50,000 in the PD side, what would that get us?
Exactly. I mean, because over there you get the moisture and all the other issues. If you could address sections.
Well, some of the issues with this has been the moisture issues. I addressed it we'll see how it goes this year. We had some pretty heavy humidity, days in succession last year. I mean, we had somebody wipe out and break their ankle here. The floors are so wet just from the humidity. But what was happening is part of that energy saving program, they'd shut the system down at nighttime to save energy costs. And all that do is the air handlers are bringing in all that wet air, not being treated. So you come in the morning, the system will kick on a half hour before we open the doors. That system worked all day to get the humidity. So you come in, the floors are wet. So, okay, we're saving a couple bucks at night, but we're putting the entire building
at risk.
So, but you're not really saving any money.
Well, that's what I said. So I changed it, and they said, well, you're gonna lose your energy. I don't care about the 2 hours.
Right.
Turn it on at night, run it for a few hours, so we're not fighting it so hard during the day, and that actually helped quite a bit. But
we're not in jeopardy of a penalty with Siemens for not breaking that contract. That's all.
No, we're not.
Okay, that's all I need.
We'll get to that here in a little bit, but
okay.
No jeopardy there, and they said you just won't see the same energy savings. Well,
right.
One accident with a broken ankle will wipe out any energy savings you ever had. So
Still, the energy stuff, as you mentioned in the past, is the idea of if you have a building that takes X amount of heat, do you do it all in one big hunk of time, or do you do it over a long period of time? I mean, there's still a lot of people that actually have conflicting views of the idea of it, if it's more energy efficient to actually run the heat more consistent instead of shutting it down. I know people shut the heat right off at night, and then they get up to 40 degrees the next morning, and then they try to get 70 degrees. Well,
You talk to any contractor, they'll tell you it's more efficient to leave it.
Yeah.
exactly.
Get a
Yeah, right.
programmable
Right,
thermostat
yeah.
and call it good.
Exactly, yeah, so I mean, it's just one of those things where you gotta balance it out, and, I mean, either works or don't.
And the recommendation here is if, say, we just said, okay, let's put this whole new system in, is to actually leave the entire existing system in place as a backup in case you ever need it. Because the reality, this building was designed for it not to ever come out anyways. There's
No place to get it.
just leave it there, keep it there, and it's a backup system.
They work around it, yeah.
But,
That saves half the cost of them trying to rip that thing out of there.
right, and, we don't use it for storage or any purpose that we would need the space. But that system would be there as a backup, which leads me to believe that maybe there's a way to phase in pieces
Right.
because that system is still would be here up and running. So I'll check and find out and see if there's another option there.
Anything they can drop the price tag to be able to phase this in through the capital improvement, you'd have my ear.
That makes it a lot more reasonable if they can do that. I'm sure that it's in their best interest to sell the whole thing all at once, but again,
Sure.
if they're gonna they can make more money piecemealing it to us as well, so it's just a matter of how they wanna do it.
Well, now we have this, I could reach out and try to get some other comparables, but any other comparable, even if it's 100,000 less, at least you're looking at, this is not a small number, this is a big issue, but.
Target for me, just real quick. So let's just say they green-light it, so yeah, we can do pieces and parts. PD is the first place you start?
I would say yes, yeah. Only because I got a $7,000 boiler there, we would maybe start that and I wouldn't have to spend the 7 on that boiler, we could actually get that room running with one.
Yeah, because you got heat pumps involved.
And keep the rest of it, exactly, and why chase it, so I would look into maybe doing that. First, I'll find out if they could actually do a phase program with this, or maybe if they have to put majority of the cost up front to even run a piece of it, well,
Yeah.
so I have to find out, I don't know the answer to that.
Do we actually have money in this year's budget to do the PD? I mean, is what needs to be repaired out there right now?
Well, it's under our repair, $20,000 a
Can be
year
paid out of this year's
repairs.
budget.
That's almost 50% of our yearly budget in one
We've got a
area.
reserve account too.
Yeah.
It's a $6,000-7,000 repair right now I have for that one to do. I just held off.
In FY19, so
Okay,
before June is
So
what
there's
I'm hearing.
already money.
Well, yeah, now that we've decided we're not going this way, I can go and get that fixed now.
This year's firm.
So there's money already put aside
Yeah.
for it.
There's money to do it right now.
Because we've already survived the first 8 months to be able to get to that point, to have that
Yeah,
discussion.
I just wanted to make sure
Yeah,
that if
no,
if it's a
I already caught that too.
if it's a known concern, if we actually have
Yeah.
a direction.
The other one, I guess, looking at higher dollar amounts is going to be a roof system out back here.
Yeah, over this.
I could try to explain it, but unfortunately, if anybody you can see out there, you'll see a light block hanging off the side of the door there. That light block can't go back on the wall. This turned into a much bigger issue this week because it looks like a majority of the back building, and I don't dare go around the rest right now, but below that hardy plank siding, which when this building was built was a very new product that first came out, the sheathing behind there is completely gone, rotted, disintegrated, there's nothing left.
Awesome.
And one whole back wall here is just, you can push the siding. I got look in, the light block came out, and it is gone, which is probably a good reason where the ants are coming from in here, because it is literally saturated, and it comes around. You can look at these windows falling apart here, but I will tell you that we have an estimate right now for $31,700 for the roof. If we were to be able to extend it, which the PD would like all the way to the end of the PD, that'd be about another $15,000. But say we stop at the tower and come around, that's about $32,000, not counting the
Including
rot
everything
repair.
that it sits
Not
on.
counting the rot repair.
Not counting everything that sits on.
What's the,
That's the roof.
Rot repair, I'm throwing that in.
Well, that
Don't
is,
know until you pull everything
I
off,
have
right?
just started, and you can't, there's no way to be able to tell. You can push and feel, but as much as push and feel, and I'm worried about going other places. But
Right, sure.
so refreshing the town office, again, 20 years now, and if you start going around and actually paying attention, the columns are all rotted out on the bottom. The place needs a lot of work to keep this in decent shape. We have structural repairs. Every wall is literally, the outside walls in this building are pulling off from the building. The cracks are better now, but if you go and see each room, that they've literally pulling over by almost an inch. That's because these large gable ends were never braced properly, so we got to get up in and do some structural bracing. Not a big deal, but just stuff we got to do. But I got an estimate just to go around and clean up the exterior of the town office, fix the rot, paint the trim, get the place spruced up, is almost $16,000. and that's not dealing with the rot repair either. So I'm thinking we got about $5,000 to $10,000 rot repair on top of that, so we probably got about $25,000 just to refresh the building out here and keep it from getting any worse than it is. But if you actually start looking around, you'll see the rot and stuff, and if we go any longer, it's not going to get better.
Would that include those columns up front too? I know
Yeah, all the
some of
columns,
that,
yeah. No,
columns
the bases
starting to
are
rot.
all rotting.
Yeah, exactly.
If you actually start looking at it and touch them, they're a lot more rotted than you
They're
think.
pretty bad, yeah.
Our signs are all falling apart. I mean, honestly, the whole place, the shutters are peeled off I could go around and show you. It just completely needs a refreshing. I hate spending money on that stuff, but it hasn't been done in 20 years. Honestly, it's still a new building, and if we don't do anything to this,
We're
Dennis,
throwing money down.
can you repeat that figure?
To refresh it right now, I have an estimate of $15,475, which doesn't deal with the rot. The rot's a new thing that just came
And
up.
that's not, has nothing to do with the roof that you want.
That's not the roof. That is just going on this whole building, doing all the trim work, columns, all the window trim, fixing the bad windows, just complete redoing the exterior of everything needs to be cleaned up.
Which to Fern's point, I mean, account number 5340, repair and maintenance, where that would be coming from, pretty much exhausts everything in that budget, 17 grand, right?
I'm just bringing up the big
No,
items.
my question is there anything,
Well, under
is
the
there-
town
is there-
building,
is there funds that we could actually come up with within FY 19's leftovers to, rather than having it close to fund balance, to be able to address some of the issues now?
We've got the security systems that are going in right now. Until we pay those bills, it's gonna be hard.
You don't know.
Yeah.
Can
We'll
you,
know in another month.
Can
We'll
you-
know actually by the end of the
can you
month.
put that on the list associated with that as I'm hearing in the neighborhood of $16,000 plus for something now that's already at a $17,000 that needs to be addressed.
It would be if we do the rot repair, which
Right.
we'd have to do.
Ignoring that. Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought I heard 25. That's what I was.
Right, we'd be 22, 23 with the rot repair from what I'm gathering right now.
That's what you can see, you don't even know.
Yeah, exactly, and I mean,
So that, basically, if we're looking at that, we're saying plus 25 to the 17, that's the ask right there, if that's what we're looking at.
Well, the reason I threw the ask at 25 was because the town building pole roof originally came in from a fund balance at 30,000. His estimate is already 2,000 short because his 32 was what he had. So
I'm looking at-
we're already short there too. So I already bumped my figure up.
We're talking about plus 25 on top of the 17 budgeted for all building and repair maintenance for the fiscal year. And we're talking about burning it all up on two things that we know in this building and still having zeroed the balance for any.
I'm not done.
And
Yeah, well, thanks, Dennis. Thanks.
This clearly says buildings. It does not say town.
Yeah,
Right,
I
I'm
caught
only
that.
started with this building.
I caught that S. Yeah, I caught that S.
Yes.
Yeah, honestly, there's a couple here we'll get through real quick, and to go back a little bit, we've actually caught up a lot of the biggest issues with the maintenance on the buildings are out of the way now in this past year. We've gotten a lot of the big hurdles. I'm just giving you the what's left.
Sure. Okay.
Outside of that, I don't know. Nobody's come to me with any other things, but I think these are the big items that have to do to clean up all of the town building piece of it. So there's your town office pieces. That's the biggest issues we have. Real simple one, Beaver Park has to have a new well this year. It's a dug well that's broken up, tree limbs going in, and it's gone. They put a new pump in. We got to drill a well this year. Right now, they just have a wire going over the top of the ground to get them by until they do, but there's about $5,000 on the well for Beaver Park. Came up the other day, and I know this is, to go back, this is the only last big item on here, I guess, is the salt shed. So, in Public Works world, they'd love to have the huge, giant, all the equipment inside and everything, and in DEP's world, that's what they want from the town of Lisbon. And if you go out there, you'll see the big piles of salt outside the doors, which is the whole issue with the aquifer. But immediately, though, if we're not doing that, which is, again, probably not happening on the new salt shed, they have a giant hole in the roof. The roof is completely rotted up, and it's all mold inside, and it's very hard for me to go fix a roof if they're supposed to have a new building. We're actually polishing something. I won't get into that, but we thought we could go patch the small hole in the roof. All the structural timbers are rotted. You can't even get up on there and patch it. It needs the whole new roof. I haven't got my estimates yet, but it's going to be about a $8,000 to $10,000 roof job, and that's on a building we know is falling apart that shouldn't even be there. But
Back to your polishing.
what am I supposed to do?
Right.
So I hate spending that money, but I can't put shingles on sheathing that's rotted, and then I can't put sheathing on rafters that are rotted.
Right.
The hole inside's covered in mold. We'll forget about that because it's outside storage, but we got to replace the members to be able to close it in.
Now that's the salt shed?
That's the salt shed.
Wasn't there a grant or something that we were looking at one point in time for
There's nothing out there right now for salt sheds. They did back in the day,
Yeah.
but not right now.
The figure we kept pushing down the line was in the neighborhood of, what, 250?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
mean,
trying to get a better figure on that, because if it is 250 or more, that's a referendum question again.
Right, and the point that I'd say, the 250 was originally based on
Yeah.
the facilities that you have on River Road from Lewiston. I challenge that, one, we're gonna come up with a space for that on the blueprint of the property that we've got right now, and two, the need that we actually have.
Talking
for
about the
that kind of-
large dome.
Yeah.
I know Randy dropped it on my desk, and I haven't gone out to get prices yet on them, but I was actually going to reach out to you to find out. I know Auburn has them, Lewiston has them. I don't care what the building costs. I want to know, what did they pay to have that done? What's the real number of that building cost? You know, installed, operating.
The pair of those, 250 a piece.
That's operating, installed, not just buying the kit and still having to do all the work. I'm talking,
No,
what's
no,
the cost to
that's-
have that, you know?
Site and everything else,
But
because,
250, yeah, that's what I was
because it
wondering.
was a significant investment.
I don't know how big Lewiston and Auburn's is, but have you ever seen Poland's?
I have, yeah. Huge.
Well, it's tall.
Yeah.
It's not really huge that way. That might be something to.
Or maybe a
Yeah,
scale down version. Yeah, I've seen
most-
them all
most
different
of them-
sizes.
Most of them
yeah.
are more vertical. They look like the
The
oversized
big issue
yurt.
we have down there is everything has to be contained inside to meet
Yeah.
the issues with DEP if they ever show up, and we have never addressed it. That's where a smaller shed probably doesn't do it if we're still filling outside.
Right.
Randy dropped in the one that all the equipment's inside. You're literally doing everything from inside before it goes out. You're still gonna have, I don't care what you do, you're still gonna trail stuff
A little bit
outside.
outdoors.
I don't-
Right.
Yeah,
You're actually just taking it from inside, dumping it outside anyway, so.
Put it
I
on
was
the
gonna say,
road,
that
so
kinda
I
defeats
agree with
the
you. I don't-
purpose.
Is that dome,
right where it's sitting, but right.
Everywhere else, right?
that dome that he's talking about, just, cost-wise, what's that?
I have, yeah. I said
No
that's
idea
what-
yet?
No, I just got in and he wanted me to reach out and get
I
some
get you a
numbers,
number,
but-
but it's gonna be 14 years old.
Well, I say, yeah, I didn't know. I knew the big one sitting up in Auburn, but that's probably a number of years old now too, but.
One of the ones I look at is like the MDOT lots. The fact is, they look like the oversized yurt, and that's what I'm trying to figure out.
That's what I keep thinking about too, is
The space-wise,
DOT lots.
we don't have the length to be able to fit that.
Yeah, I actually haven't looked at the property to see what fits either. I haven't got into that. But you're right, if, all well and good, but if we don't have the property to do
Right.
it, it doesn't work.
Well,
With an exception of the front lawn when you pull in.
Yeah.
If the
Right.
if the cost is lower on that yurt, not that I'm saying it is or it isn't, but if it's, I'm gonna use yurt because I like that. If the cost is lower on that yurt, then is it time, if we're gonna get into this game, think about looking for a different site?
Where's DOT load up in Topsom? Are they still in Topsom, or is that, DOT where they load up salt? It used to be a lot.
Talk
right
about
off
on
Purpose, right?
196.
Yeah.
It's now, it's a pit.
It's at the pit. They don't actually have a building there. or
They don't
anything.
I believe they moved over to the
They have a
town
place right out in Sabanas.
public, like by the dealerships.
Again, to circle back, the fact is, we keep kicking this item down the line. I don't want it removed from the capital improvement plan by any stretch, but I am not sold on a facility that's got everything underneath one roof on our facility, because we don't have the space for that facility. And one of the things that's clearly in the back of my mind is, was it 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we voted down purchasing the ETTI property. That is what our community is. If we have to put it out to them, that is what I'm basing my opinion on.
There were two other, absolutely correct, but there were two other items on that. My memory serves me correct on that. 3 items total on that, and 2 of them were big ticket items. So the third
Right.
one, I think it was just the poor placement of that particular. One of them was going to get the no, and I felt like that last one for that spot for that ETTI building, that would have been great for us to grab that. But I think that the climate might change a little bit if we go out and stress the
I don't
sense.
disagree, but one of the things that I would counter with is clearly what I'm hearing from the people that are communicating to me is it was the third ask for the same thing in this community. Did you not hear me say no the first 2 times?
Right.
That is the resounding issue, and the fact is, anything that we can do with the voters actually now allowing us to increase the threshold to the 250, work within the spirit of that, I would work within that to see what we can do, even if it's phasing something in, to be able to address it over time. If we have to purchase the property this year and actually Band-Aid till we can actually do this construction, I think we need to keep it actively there to be able to keep to that spirit of what they've empowered us to do.
So the current shed is falling down, it's rotten, it's broken, it's
Right.
nasty. Or can we, if we're gonna sink 10 or 8 to 10 grand into a roof,
This is so
then
gross.
is the rest of the structure, is there something that we can do to stop the bleeding on it? And would it be a viable, something that we could use down the line after we move on to something bigger?
I think that'd be more of a Randy question.
Yeah.
I'm not too involved there day to day to know. But you're right, if you move a salt shed to a new location, keep is that structure worth saving to keep there for other purposes?
Right,
I would have to
exactly.
think so, but I don't know enough of how they.
And not only just keeping salt in that building, because the other side of that building, they're housing all their street signs.
Well, that's why I need the roof repair, because it's a hole in the roof that's getting everything wet. In fact, all our street lights, batteries were underwater, and that's where they realized, hey, what the hell's going on? There's a big hole in the roof.
Correct, there's a lot
just
more.
salt.
That's a good then.
A lot more than just salt.
That's a good question for Randy then, just to kind of say, if we're gonna try to make those to go with what you're saying, we're gonna try to piecemeal in the idea of, do we buy the land first, and start looking for a site? But while we're doing that, we still have to deal with what we have right now. So if we're gonna make an investment on a roof, like you said, let's not put a beautiful hat on something that's falling apart.
Well, I'm going to have to do something quick, so I'll need
Right.
some direction from
Well-
council if they
well,
want me to
you-
go further on that building or not, because the walls need it, they're bowed out. We were just literally putting a roof on something that we shouldn't be putting a new roof on.
Well,
but-
I can go on record right now and actually ask a question that actually can come up next week with Randy. He could be prepared to answer it. The fact is, he has $210,000 for a wheeler loader dump body snow attachments for $210,000. Is that a higher priority than a salt facility? He comes back and he answers that question. That gives us a better direction of which way we move.
Fair.
We've been kicking that item down the line for just as long as the salt shed. So which one are we going to tackle this coming year? You made the note. You can ask
The
Randy.
problem
that
is
question.
I have to fix the roof now.
I know, right.
regardless.
You need to
we
address the one
understand,
we're
but
doing. Right.
we're hoping that you can hold off for one more week
Oh,
to get
well,
Randy
yeah,
in
I
the seat.
can.
Yeah.
All right, no, that's fair. So I just don't want to answer. I don't know enough.
I
about
I
his
don't want to
business
leave you
on how-
hanging. It
how
needs
he
to be
runs it.
addressed.
I think next week's discussion with Randy will bear a lot of fruit, and plus, if she can get the bug in his ear about getting a true assessment on that building to see if there's worth, moving forward on maybe trying to see, could we use that, and if we could, what would make the most sense for a repair attack plan.
And I like that figure. 210 actually passed straight face test. It is not a referendum item. We are not manipulating the system, and I'm not going to get criticism from the voters in this community.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, you're still going to get the bias about anybody with anything
Hey.
for PW in general.
2 out of 3 ain't bad.
On an article, Livermore went out to bid like 2016, and they had 5 bids come in, anywhere from $389,000 to $647,700 for a salt shed,
Yeah, so it's
Oh, yeah, I think we all know what's coming if we.
and that's for a 60 by 127 foot building,
Right,
site
this-
work and paving.
If you said 250 14 years ago, you're at 360
No,
now.
Yeah.
And we got a pair of them. And it was part of the Walmart land tip swap. So they had money in too to be able to get us where we were at.
Yeah.
So they were cushioning the blow. So yeah, it was real.
So, GoFundMe?
Well, then the other issue you're also
Really thinking we're a viable cause?
is location is the other issue is.
Right.
The only
Yeah,
real
Finish
Well,
there,
and
you
then-
got to have a location before
And
you even
that's
think
just
of
for
it.
the structure.
yeah,
That's not even for the groundwork and the paving and all that
Land.
that comes
Yeah.
with it.
Land to
We,
that point. Where does it go?
and then it's gonna be close by to the public works, because you can't have it like, I just,
Gonna be down there in
right,
Capital Avenue.
logistically,
You would
that
have
would
to,
be hard.
and the only spot really, and if you're not using the front lawn, is basically where the salt shed is now. And because the sand land where they put the sand and the salt is very close to one another to load on the way, is that if this even flew by, you would basically have to get rid of the property that was already there, make it bigger for what you're gonna do, and then put it right back, and you only got ready, set, go, because the snow is gonna be here before you blink.
Yeah.
Because other than if you're not using that front lawn, there is really no other place, the last time I looked, really over there, that you could put another one without actually putting it in the same place.
Anything we're talking about right now, repairing the roof that we got there, and next spring, when we actually get past it, would be spending the money to complete it for next year.
As Dennis has already stated, you're gonna spend a lot of money on that
Well,
shiny.
the other issue is you can't, I say you can't, but at least from what I've been told, and if DEP was ever come in, you can't replace that existing shed with a small shed that they're still loading outside with, because the whole
Correct.
problem,
Well, there is the
either
water.
you're putting one that it's all contained inside, or it doesn't meet the requirements there. So if it
Right.
doesn't fit there, then you don't have that option to put a smaller one that.
Correct.
That building is not 125 feet long. The fact is, anything that you're just looking up is not even
It's
going to fit on
huge.
that blueprint.
Yeah.
That's why I was saying.
Honestly,
that
I'd have to
you're-
pull it up my maps and see.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit of dirt back there. Maybe you could turn it up against the retaining wall on the transfer station, have the front on the roads. I don't know. I'd have to
Right.
see. I don't know. But
Yeah, we have to understand.
I don't know,
the
these
foot-
buildings look bigger
I
than
don't
the
even know the
Public Works
overall size
building.
of the building, right?
Yeah, we have to understand what the footprint is
trying to
before we
see if
can
we can fit it in there.
figure out what's gonna fit inside of it.
All right.
But I think, like I say, start with Randy on can that
Yeah, that- I
building be
think
used for
that's-
other purposes and just figure out our best plan. I'm gonna have to fix the roof regardless.
Right.
Blue tarps, they come blue, they come green, they come.
Yeah, we can try. It's,
Blue and green. Like
All right.
red and black, Lisbon colors, come on.
last few.
Some communities type ours as siding too.
Last few, I have a lot of, the fire departments are pretty much up to speed, although we have had a leak in the roof in Lisbon Falls. The rubber roof hasn't been addressed for quite a while up there, so we're hoping we get up there that it doesn't need a whole redo on the rubber roof. So I don't have a number on that yet. We do have one electrical upgrade left to do to turn from fuses to circuit breakers. That's about $3,500 there. Everything else, for the most part, has been done on the fire departments this year, and both of them. They do have to fix their exhaust system for their fire truck exhaust system, the exhaust outside. So I got a couple smaller ticket items there. Furnace repair, PD, I'll have to go ahead with that, but I will talk about that phasing in option. The only other thing I add is, and I don't know if it even pertains to today, but just trying to think of big ticket items would be working on the town parking lot down on Union Street right now, so I don't know where that falls into discussion of dollars or costs or whatever, so I'm just doing that now, so. It looks like we're gonna be around 28 parking spots when I finish the design.
28, nice.
Yeah,
That project would come under.
That's pretty
that'll
significant.
help a lot.
No,
Yeah,
we've
it's pretty
got-
significant.
We've got
Excuse me.
funds left over, and then we've got 50,000 our grant match that we haven't spent yet, because we can take
So
the,
we don't have to tap the funds that we have
Right.
for proceeds of sale.
I'm proposing that's a public works project there. That's how I am thinking. I haven't really talked about that. I'm getting the design done. It's looking like around 28 spots. Came up with an agreement with the Bowers the other day, so that's being drawn so I can bring it back to Diane to show you guys and make sure everybody agrees. But they gave us that corner, which is the only way that makes the parking lot work for us on the Union Street side. It worked out very well for both parties, and then we can take the one on Booker Street and make that an additional parking space. I think it comes out around 28 spaces. I'm just finishing up the top lot right now, but that's actually significant, especially if Main Street goes under tear down, then you're gonna be really hurting for parking. It'd be nice to have those in place before Main Street gets stripped up. But
I think my thought on those is the idea you get them planned and you have, Randy actually get some good quotes on what it actually he can do and what we need to do, and then I think hopefully we have funds already existing that can take care of it. I mean, that would be the hope.
Yeah, no, it's just I wasn't hearing any additional funds. Even if we exhausted the grant funds, that we still had the sale of the proceeds. That's a win-win.
Yeah, I mean,
Because it needs to happen.
there's some additions to that.
I think it needs to happen like real quick.
Yeah, it needs to happen.
CMP met me out there. We're in good condition in Lisbon when it comes to having the right people at Century Power. But if anybody doesn't know, Dick Adams, longtime Lisbon resident, this is last month. He's retired. He's done. Jim Lemieux took his place, so we have another Lisbon guy that jumped in. So that's excellent. And they met me out there yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. They're going to relocate a couple poles to help the whole parking situation. Won't cost us anything, so they're getting right on that. So we're already getting some stuff moved out of the way, and it's just a matter of doing the work, how far we want to go. You might be able to do like just a base coat of pavement. You're going to need something to stripe the parking lots, but so I just wanted to bring it up because I know it's a cost. I don't know where all the money's coming from for that, but that's so the way I have it on my numbers, about $100,000 without the $500,000 HVAC. I have left to get the buildings up to where they need to be right now. All the town buildings, about $100,000.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
His 17 isn't inadequate. And the fact that, again, if we can find anything from this year funds to divert some of that, but does that include the repairs to equipment as well, Dennis, for your $30,000 there?
I didn't get the
You didn't even get into equipment.
Yeah, 35, 45, the repair and equipment, which basically is the cost of the heating equipment, AC equipment.
Right, that's what I figured.
Generators and sprinkler systems.
Which winging a prayer, same as, right.
Looking around, hopefully they work, right?
Repair and maintenance equipment, we're at 51% on the year right now. And if you look down through my breakdown, it's Siemens, Patriot Mechanical, Patriot Mechanical, Patriot Mechanical, Patriot Mechanical, Patriot Mechanical, so that tells you our, where we're spending money on keeping
You're
this thing
saying
running.
51% of the 30, so you're actually at around, like, say, $32,000 right now to spend. I mean, 15.
We spent 15 and a half, yeah.
We better get a box of chocolates at the Christmas card we get from Patriot, that's all I'm saying. Each, right?
I can't accept that gift.
I'm not talking about us, I'm talking
There's
about.
a contract there somewhere.
I'm talking about Diane and the staff here.
Right.
That's
One
what
of
I'm
the
saying.
things I want to do before year end, if there's anything left in those three accounts, 5340, 5345, and 5400, I'd like to carry those balances forward into the town buildings reserve account and do that faithfully every year, because that's the only way we're going to build up our.
Do we have a reserve account right now?
We do.
We do. What's in the reserve account right now?
About 71,000.
About 71,000. Now, is that money, is that earmarked for anything at this point in time?
No.
So, I mean, doing Alan's math here, I mean, if you got the 30,000 for next year's budget for the maintenance equipment, you actually have the 20,000 in there for the heat exchangers. So there's 50. You actually have 14 left over from last year, so you may be up around 65,000, and that's mainly all earmarked towards heat equipment. And be curious to see what we could actually get done.
Well, it says heat equipment, it's all repair and maintenance, it's everything, but
Yeah.
but unfortunately, that's what takes most of it.
Yeah.
Like I
You
said,
know,
we got a lot of things done this year, so hopefully that stuff doesn't keep coming back.
If you could do a partial bit of just the police station part there, maybe you could not have to spend the money on the boiler to fix it and instead put that towards new.
That's why I say, maybe I can, if they'll answer and say, yeah, we could do that piece.
Fixing an old one.
Is there?
I hate to spend $7 and tear it out.
Replace it,
Right.
yes.
Or replace
And
it.
that note that we made, is it coming back for future discussion during the budget, or was it just that I talked about going to the capital improvement for next year?
Would you say that again? What I just said, you mean?
No, the note that you made, was the note to revisit it during this budget, or was it just the capital improvement for next year? Because I will retract that. If the fact is, there's anything that he can do, that we can do it this year,
Right.
I would want to revisit it.
The 71,000, I guess the question is that earmarked for anything? Is there anything earmarked to come out of that right now?
No.
So, I mean, in a sense, if there's structural integrity of the building that needs to be addressed, I mean, that actually, we have means actually addressing that at this point in time. Not so much, I mean,
Right.
again, it's not, so to speak,
We
planned
we have
capital
71
improvements,
for
but
that roof and that wall.
if needed, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing too.
But wasn't it 30,000 already put in somewhere, it's 31,000?
There's 30,000 for the wall from fund balance as well.
Fund balance, so now we're talking $100,000.
To be able to do all of what he just talked about.
Yeah, nothing to do with heaters, we're talking about structural roof.
Correct.
Basically,
That's what I was hearing too.
gusting up the old girl, giving her, and then put on the, addressing the issues over here with the roofs.
So our biggest concern is not so much that stuff, it is more the heat, where we're gonna actually get the money for that.
How do we move forward?
How do we move forward with that? So I guess it would be the idea of just putting the numbers together, what we have in this year's budget, and again, you can't drain it.
Right now it's too early to tell because of these other expenses. Probably in another
To your
few.
point, I would also make the recommendation if we have to do in the future, and the fact that these accounts don't close, they go directly into a reserve for a future
Yep.
year.
Because you just never know what's going to happen, and usually when you're dealing with buildings, they're big ticket items.
Well, the building's getting older, they're not getting
It is.
younger.
Right.
I say, we got a lot of things done, these are the biggest stuff that's left, that's why I wanted to bring them up tonight. But
Okay.
I think there was, I think just to wrap up the town building, I don't know, there might have been a question, or Diana had talked about the time being spent on town buildings. Was that a question or concern any councils had, or?
A transition from Ryan to you, give me an estimate of how much time of your time it's actually taken, yeah.
Probably don't even want that
Well, is it,
answer.
well, the point that I would actually going to counter is what I clearly heard is the fact that, okay, we've gotten past the worst. Is it going to get better?
Well, it's always the intent, is you get through
Yeah.
that, you shouldn't have to do it again, so that's
Right.
the plan. Unfortunately, the part that probably a lot of people wouldn't understand is the town building stuff is easy. I make a call, go fix this, whatever, that's easy. The figuring it out, going to get multiple estimates or doing whatever, that's where a lot of time is involved. But honestly, the biggest amount of time is making sure that it's done right, making sure that it's billed right, and I will tell you, probably 75% of what comes in isn't right and goes back to the contractor to fix it before it goes back and gets paid. my job would be easy if I just got the bills and paid them, and that's what was happening for a long time. But I will tell you the amount that we've been saving on issues. I'll give you an example. We had a $4,600 invoice. Would have just got paid because that was the estimate they gave us. Well, I go back and check the estimate versus the invoice, and it's kind of funny when an estimate matches the invoice exactly. I said, well, you're either real good at estimating or it just happened to be a coincidence. So we go back and check, find out, okay, who was there on the job site? Well, there was one guy, 2 days, one guy only. Yep, there 8 hours each day. Okay, that's 16 hours. Go back to the invoice, 32 hours of labor. That's not going to work. So you get a hold of the contractor, say, hey, what's going on? Oh, geez, I don't know. I think he was, well, and then I get the service reports from the guy who did the work, and he puts on the 8 hours one day, 8 hours the next. So after he's trying to say, well, I think they did more. Well, here's your guys' service reports. 8 hours each, 16 hours, brought it down to $2,600. So again, that's the stuff that takes, there's an hour of my time going around to make sure we didn't get screwed on one invoice, and that's just one. And then, that's where the work comes in on doing
What I'm
this
hearing
job
from
right.
you, Dennis, is the fact that I'm clearly hearing that somebody that's got the experience and the code enforcement knowledge, we got the right person to be able to pay for we're actually
Yeah, it has
getting
nothing to do
out
with
of
code
it.
enforcement, but just building.
No, it's true that you do, and the fact is you may not apply it to that scenario, but the fact is if it's actually just.
But my only
doesn't
point
make
is
sense.
it takes a lot of work to
Sure.
actually follow these through to the end to make sure that nobody got screwed along the way.
Especially us.
And you wouldn't believe that
It's a
75%
municipal
of
dollar, it
them,
only goes so far.
we are getting screwed.
No, I think I completely understand what you're saying, because it's not that, in a real world, it'd be great, rubber stamp that, moving along, and it's trust, but the trust but verify. The verify part, because you're pulling on the thread on the sweater, and I know
So
that's where the time comes in.
Same question. How many hours in a week right now, average over the year?
It's a minimum of an hour a day for me, the minimum.
Okay. So out of a 40-hour position, then.
Well, 4 days a week, so let's just say an hour to make everybody happy, but it takes more than that to get it done.
Right.
But like you say, if we get over the big stuff, then hopefully it's not.
it's going to be more about
Some of
checking.
it's just taking that on and getting us caught up to where we need to be, so it's a little inflated maybe now than it might be down the road, but you're always going to have issues. It never ends. Every day there's a building that I get a call on for something. So.
Okay.
All right. That was town buildings.
Perfect.
We have one more thing, Dennis, the professional. Did you talk about that when I was making a copy? The reason we reduced that to 0?
We did, and I brought we did. That's under town buildings, I guess, yeah.
Yep. So,
Yeah, we have a Siemens contract. I don't want to get the number wrong. Our end for town building was over $6,000 something a year that we pay for the report to tell us that we actually saved money under that program. I don't want to make light of it, but we brought them in to sit down and have a discussion about this. We have the reports over the last 3 years, and each year you can go through these reports and look at justifying our energy savings, showing our energy savings. But when I get down through this, the reality is we're paying over almost $9,000, I think, for the report, just the report. Now, the report is done by the company that actually
has got a selfish interest.
So I don't want to get into that, but if you ever think the report's going to come back that you didn't save energy, I would be shocked. But we had a very good conversation with them. It went very well. We asked a lot of questions. I got all my questions here. We hit them pretty good on things. And what it literally boils down to is we're spending the town office $6,000, and then the other building another sewer or something.
Yeah.
So almost $9,000 just for them to generate the report to verify that we are saving according to what they said we would. So needless to say, we don't need the report anymore. We have all we need, 3 years of it backing up that it is working. So our recommendation, and honestly, he agreed with our recommendation, was why we
continue to pay.
Have you guys ever read these reports top to bottom? I mean, for $7,000, is it worth you having this report? And that's really where it boiled down to. So the thing is, the stuff is already done. The savings are already there. So this is just a report to tell us what we already know.
Wait, will you hold that up again? Because I see a police boiler right there.
Right.
So if you agree
Yeah.
with this, I want to send him an email to tell him that we no longer want to have that. So
Yes.
we don't have to
He's,
pay for
he's
it
done.
next coming.
He's done.
That's
So
all
they
he
actually
needs is
said
an
that
email.
So they're
There's no-
charging us $9,000 a year for a piece of paper to
To do
tell
the
us
report,
that
to tell us that we saved the
you're
energy.
saving money, but you're really
Because
not
they have
saving
to-
money
they have
because
to
you're paying money
justify-
to get a report.
Yeah, based on that program, they have to justify the energy savings,
They
or
have
else
to.
they
They
would
have
owe
to
us.
pay us.
They'd have
Can we
to
just
pay
get,
us.
can we just get the report and email? Just post it.
So we're paying
PDF,
them
baby.
$9,000 for them
Zero
to tell,
cost.
so that they don't have to pay us.
And they do their own audit of their, so, correct, yes. So, we had a
Oh, that
meeting.
story, right?
We had a
Did
meeting.
I misunderstand? I think when we heard the school's presentation of their budget, weren't they looking at another phase of this same exact thing for the next? Can we bring them up to speed, share what our experience is here to be able to say that if there's something they can do in the future that's slightly different to save?
Well, I left one piece of this out, that just, not intentionally, but would just get the other piece of this, and the reason why the performance contract piece doesn't make as much sense now is because we don't even use them anymore for our
Yeah, they're not the preferred. Yeah,
So honestly, they have an out anytime there's an issue because they're actually not even doing the preventative maintenance stuff or anything. We have
that's
a
where
different
that's
company
Patriot
now.
comes in, right?
So they could literally have an out on anything that comes up with on that agreement because they're not actually even maintaining or servicing it. So honestly, for the town standpoint, it's a complete waste. Now, the school, I think, still has them as their,
Yeah.
so there might be more value to the school side than what we have here now, but.
But even then, I'm thinking that why are we paying that much money for a report?
That's what I said, and that's why we got together.
Even if they said, okay, we do this, but they can cut it out because they know they have cost savings. Make it an every other year thing, or if you really need to, or come up with a time frame that makes sense. To spend all that money every year just seems foolish.
Yeah. And I think most of our savings is coming from the lighting, all the changes in the lighting, not so much the heating, but the lighting. I don't see that we can get much savings in the heating system because it's so out of whack.
The system is what it is, you're not gonna.
It was interesting because he told us that when they first came, and this was before I came to work here, is when this all started with Siemens and Energy Performance. It ended when I was here, though, when we went to referendum, but their recommendation was to replace that heating system, and it got taken off. But that was their recommendation 5 years ago.
Yeah, spend $300,000 to save 50. That's solid. That's like the rebates.
Yeah, gotta do it because you're getting that 50 grand rebates.
I want to meet that salesman. He gave that to you with a straight face.
Salesman would.
Well, and honestly, they have nothing to do with rebates. It's a
yeah.
government thing, and
Yeah, no,
they
I
want
get
you
it.
to know that you might not
No,
get
it's
billed
there.
as well.
It's 50 grand because it was in the paper today. And in fact, there's heat pumps associated with that. That's a $500 on an individual heat pump. So
That's
it's a
why-
program that states run it. Absolutely.
But most heat pumps, I mean, the commercial ones may be a little bit different, but they're not, I mean, they're a appliance compared to, the school had a boiler that was a 20, 30-year boiler.
Right.
A heat pump is a 8 to 10-year maximum lifespan. So
Yeah, and I don't want to tell you, this is not a heat pump. It's the easiest way to think of what it would look like, but these are
Concept.
units in the ceilings with outside units. It's
You're talking full air exchanger.
yeah, it's a bigger system than that, but it's similar to a heat pump, AC and heat off the same units in each, controlled by each individual office. And
But still, it's a lifespan. I mean, that's the thing.
oh, sure, yeah. Everything nowadays is not like it used to be. Yeah, they're appliances now, like you said. Yeah. 10 years and you're looking to replace.
All right, let's dive in.
Can we circle back to wages for a second? Is it my understanding, what is the amount that we increased for wages for town buildings?
We moved 2,500 from the code officer's budget wage line and put it into town buildings, and then we added another 2,500 for it.
Okay, so between the 2-year gap, the fact is we're looking at a $5,000 increase for wages for town buildings, is what I'm hearing.
Right, but it, right.
But reduced code off, because you had it in my.
We reduced 2,500 from the code.
Right,
So the
I
net
feel it
is
should be
really a
separate,
$2,500 increase.
this
But
year.
yes,
This
right.
This year will last.
But it is a 5,000 increase to the town budget, town buildings budget.
Correct.
Yeah.
And $2,500 increase this year overall, no matter where it's financed from. That's what I wanted to be able to know. That's what I didn't gather. One of the things that I would advocate for budgets moving forward, because this is the third night in a row that we've had these kinds of things, if we have a new service or program that's going to be on there compared to last year, I would like to know about all of them in advance, so we don't have to be looking through the budget one at a time to find these things. we have, it's a form that actually comes from each individual division or you to be able to put it out there. The fact is, I don't care if we're talking about 28 hours for a library position or $2,500 from Dennis's. If it's something that's new that actually is above from the previous year, I would like to see them all in one place. That way we don't have to sit there and scrutinize individual divisions
There is one.
one by
under
one with them sitting in the
miscellaneous.
seat. And then there were some,
You see
actually,
that?
you listed new positions.
I don't think I didn't put the increase though to, yes, I'll make
I
sure
don't,
I
I don't
get
want to
all of them.
revisit last budget sessions, but with the EMA director, and we're talking about increasing that stipend twice what it was from the previous year, I would view that as a new program of service, and I would like to have them all in one place. It would streamline this process rather than having to sit through my bipolar conversations, going line item by line item, looking at what's different from last year.
Moving along.
Moving me along, exactly right.
Which one would you like first?
Planning board.
All right.
Please.
Keep it pretty minimal. 2019 was 32,000. This year is 29,600. So we recommend it to go down.
Thank you.
If there's any questions.
So I see you cut the professional development by 2,500. So what was the reason for that?
So the line item 5258 for professional services had 2,500. It now carries 0. That 2,500 was carried over to complete the comprehensive plan, which is, I'd say, done on our part, just waiting for the state to approve. So we didn't need to carry that forward this year, so that went away.
Mr. Chair?
Absolutely.
One question I have with this division isn't for Dennis, it's for us. I've heard the goals for the coming year from the planning board for what they would like to do with the outside services for the amount of the $21,250.
Yeah.
I think we need to actually figure out where we want to live to be able to either support that at that ask or come back with a proposed adjustment. So I would put that on the list. Get that list from Ms. Parity, because I know that they have vetted that at least a couple of meetings, most recently for what they're looking for
He had
his
sent,
town.
I think Diane should have, he sent a goals list or with a priority list to the.
Good.
So if that looks reasonable, then we would be able to assess whether that makes sense or not.
So yeah, that contracted services line is 100% the contract planner.
Right, that is
No, there's no other, that is.
That's something I would like to actually bring back for further discussion also.
That's on.
I would request, I'm not a planning board, so I think that should be a discussion with the planning board, not me.
That's why I said it is not a Dennis question, but it's in that line item, absolutely.
Anything else from anybody else on the planning board? All right. Health officer.
Do you want to do code enforcement too? I know it's not listed here.
No, I'm going in order that I got from Twyla. Working on 5 right now. We'll go to health officer, then appeals board, then we can go code enforcement.
So apparently this increased, but I believe the only increase was just based off the FICA retirement workers' comp. For the most part, it's paid position and $150 in supplies, or excuse me, yeah, $150 in supplies.
Anyone with any additional questions?
The one that's off page for me is that if we're going to continue to budget, is it your retirement there? The fact is we should charge it there. There's been no expenses since 2017. I'm recommending either a $535 budget reduction because it's already in code enforcement, or charge it where it should be.
We gotta do a journal entry to move it over.
Okay, so
It's
as long
not-
as you,
We just can't break it out that far in payroll, so it's not hitting the health officer when we go through payroll.
I understand that, but my point still stands. The fact is FY 17 and 18 have already closed. We never did that journal entry. If we're going to do it for FY 19, that would say that makes sense. The fact that when you're looking at a 3-year trend, 2 years have already closed, and we missed that 2 years in a row. So that would be the only thing that I had.
Anything else? Okay, so appeals board. Excuse me.
The appeals board, again, worked very hard to not have appeals, and we've been pretty successful at that. It's not a bad thing. It's actually
no appeal.
It's really what you should do. Is a lot of people just go ahead and do an appeal, but what you really need to do is spend some time with the people and explain the laws of an appeal, which isn't a local law. Those are state laws, or even higher up than that. But there's certain criteria and things that you have to meet to even qualify for an appeal, and 90% of the time they don't. So I try to explain that all to them, and most of the time they realize it's a waste of money to appeal this because they don't have a good basis to grant you a variance on these rules. So we've been able to keep most of that at bay, but you just never know. You could have a year with 3 or 4 appeals, or 5, or none. Fortunately, we've gone 3 years without any on my side. There was a sewer appeal last year, I think. That was sewer, not variance. But so kept it minimum. I have $50 in supplies and pretty much run it as absolute minimum as possible.
Pretty straightforward, I think.
Anyone?
Yeah. The only
Any
thing I had,
questions?
the effect is the same thing, is we haven't charged it, but Dennis just covered it, to the effect that
You put something there in case we have one.
is a placeholder, because if not, it's
It's
gonna
gotta
come out,
happen. It's
it's
just
gonna
a
come
matter-
out of code, or it's gonna come someplace else, because it's still gonna get paid.
Yeah, absolutely. Next.
Code enforcement.
So under the code enforcement, wages, I don't have anything to do with that. Professional development dropped $250. Really, the only reason there is I've completed my 12 or 13 or 14 certifications for the next 6 years. So I don't have to get recertified for 6 more years now. So there was a little bit of money in there for recertification year that came back out to put us back down to the 500 a year, I think. Outside of that, I believe everything I stayed the same, with the exception of stuff out of my control in regards to the insurances, retirement, and stuff. So
Mapping and microfilming is something you're working on right now before year end?
yeah, it shows probably nothing on my end being expended yet, but we do have a couple invoices coming in this week from Ray Corson. Just wrapped up some mapping stuff that Kathy's used up hers, and I'll use part of mine. So yeah, that's something that we should keep, because we're constantly upgrading maps each year to keep that system going. And our GIS system is just about finished, so we'll have that live here soon.
Nothing, it was pretty straightforward, that was the only one that came off the page.
The, what is the, Diane, does Chief actually have a plan for, as we're rotating the cruisers out, to actually keep dating code enforcement vehicle to get it newer? So, I mean, this year, because right now it's an old detective car, right, I think?
I have the Fusion, yeah.
The Fusion, yeah.
Yeah, between him and wastewater treatment and public works, we're rotating them around.
So when we get new cruises this upcoming year, we'll just keep moving things up so they stay newer, so we don't get tied up with something that's totally gone away.
Yep.
Okay. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, wasn't that the Crown Vic? Where did that go?
Does that go to the auction?
The old blue one got
Yes, that
sold
went
off
to
at
the
the auction.
That
Right?
was,
Yeah.
that
Just confirming.
Once it was
We don't
completely
have a
used
good
up,
history.
it went away.
No,
I want to make sure it went.
we ran
That
the
was-
life out of that, and that went to auction.
Yep. So this
It's kind of
upcoming
like
year,
Mark's
when,
Park truck. Eventually, it's
I had no problem
Ready
with
to
that car.
go.
I love that guy. We're good.
Yeah.
so this upcoming
Fusion
year,
runs
when
fine.
Mark gets actually 2 new cars, then wastewater and codes will actually update theirs again. We'll just keep moving those. Is that kind of the cycle?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we're not gonna get rid of one of, like, what they're using right now unless we run the life out of it. If they're still fine, we'll use them. We'll
But they
use
get
them.
pushed down the line.
They get
So the
pushed, yeah.
Dennis's Fusion, the one from
Yeah.
wastewater will be the.
You can always still use it as a trade-in at the end of the line. Just
Right.
right back
Yeah,
when you're,
exactly.
you know.
I just want to make sure that we actually just,
No,
as
it-
Mark
yeah.
improves, we
They're
keep
not hanging
going.
around for nothing.
Yeah, we just
Like
keep.
stepping them away.
It's always
Seven.
good to have a spare because, you know, just
Correct.
recently we had an issue with the rec department's 2 vehicles not passing inspection, so he ended up having to use one of the highway trucks, when Buttons was on vacation. Had we had a spare, they would have been all right, although it wouldn't have been ideal because of the type of work they do.
Spares
but-
are okay, keeping old stuff around just to keep maintaining it, because we
Yeah.
proved that we didn't have money to maintain
Yeah,
it in the first place.
that's-
It doesn't
Right.
work. I mean, that's a hard call. You mean, so,
Makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes no sense to me to actually put the investment into what the police department gets to keep the trash on the back end. It doesn't. And the fact is, if we're already seeing the maintenance costs reduced in what we're having on the police department, we should keep moving that forward through. So what we got going, I would continue, because
Yeah.
prior to 3 years ago, it was sitting in the PW yard rotting into the stratosphere, and then sealed bids to get off the property for less than $100 was bullshit.
No, keep moving it on, and just as we update, just keep passing
Auto
down the
for
line, so
$100.
it keeps going back.
So,
No, thank you.
are we all good?
We're good.
Yes.
Next.
Okay, so, thank you, Dennis. And I'm gonna stop here for a minute because I put in a hard and fast rule about 2 hours, and we're closing with about 20 minutes left. So as I look at this, the town manager has quite a few, different pieces, whereas the town clerk does not. So I'm thinking we should go out of order and have Twyla go, and maybe push the town manager piece to the next. What's the general consensus thoughts on that?
Sounds good.
Friendly amendment, the fact is I would just go to the 2 hours so we can.
Yeah, no, I'm down with that.
If we could cover
I don't know-
anything of Diane.
I don't know
Yeah,
what,
but some of these I think we'll cut through pretty quick. I mean, county tax, I mean, that's.
Yeah, that's already known, pay the
that's
bill.
basically
So
it.
do you wanna go out of order then? I mean, just stick
No,
with
I have
order?
no issue with going out of order, but whatever we can cover within the 2 hours, please.
It's fine. So Twyla, let's go ahead and get you up first, and then we can start grinding through yours after to see what we can get through. I didn't know how much Twyla had.
Done. It's good.
Nice.
I don't think I had anything with Twyla.
I just had no notes I seen from you.
Okay.
Oh, I did, I asked one question, it was answered.
So basically, we're looking at a relatively small increase. We're asking, the first line that has changed is the temporary line for wages. Wages line for our part-time people. And so we're asking for 9 additional hours. And currently, we find that we're struggling with 20 hours for a part-time position. We broke that into 16 hours for a deputy and 4 for an assistant. And so we really wanted to continue succession planning and training, and we're finding it difficult to get a chance to do some of that stuff. Currently, the position is helping with, we're doing petition certification, we're doing the town report setup, we're doing planning board meetings and minutes and council meetings and workshops, as you've seen her here. And then during this 20 hours, we're still doing marriages, issuing licenses, and licenses approximately like 20 to 30 minutes per couple. And we're doing births, deaths, and marriage certificates, and answering the phone, doing the rest of the counter work, notarizing documents. She's putting together agenda packets and uploading them. We have no time to do boards and committee reports. We need to get that covered. We need to do business licenses on a more regular basis. We need to learn how to scan the stuff into the electronic vital record system. We need to be working in the vault. We have projects we can't get done. And I also think that we dedicate at least 4 hours a week to just taking in those voter cards from motor vehicle and updating the voter reg files. And so there's just a lot of work. So we feel like the 9 extra hours will definitely be used if you can swing that. And then the other change, we increased postage because of the increase in postage, and we also have to consider, I think this year we're going to have to notify all the dog owners through mail instead of through email. We've been doing about half through email and the rest through regular mail, so I think we're going to use more postage. Printing, we only just transferred, basically the biggest change is transferring the $1,200 for the town report. We transferred it from the town manager's budget and put it into this budget, since our department is now doing the whole thing. And the other one under repair and maintenance, we have no clue, it's sort of unknown what tabulating voting equipment the state will choose, but they will have us sign a contract and we'll rent them from them. So I added a little bit there for cushion, just because you just don't know what it's going to be. And then supplies, we were a little short, so we added a couple hundred.
Chair, may I?
Yes.
Could you explain more the position, the 9 hours? So is that 9 hours weekly? Is that for one particular person? Is that for multiple people? Or
No, just the one.
Just the one. How many hours are they doing now? 16, so we're still in that week. Still
It'll
be
be
a part,
25.
still be a part-time position.
It is, at 25, yeah. Yeah, it'll probably be all day Friday, half day Thursday and Wednesday, and maybe part of the day on Tuesday, so this is
Now,
more.
is this person, someone's been there for a while, or?
Yes, we're very excited about, doing more training and making sure that they, pick up the MMA workshops and so on.
So I mean, secession means that the end goal is to actually have them be more of a full-time employee doing that position, right?
Well,
Or,
theoretically, but we can't go that far with it, right?
oh, that's
So-
what I'm just saying. I mean, it's just one of those things
But,
where, I
yeah.
mean, yeah, you could have some type of plan, investing the time to actually teaching someone this type of stuff with the idea of just starting next year to do it again for the part-time person, I mean, would be a challenge, that's all,
Well,
so,
if that works out,
yeah.
I mean, that's great, but at this point, you really want somebody fully trained no matter what. So
Okay.
that if you're looking for a new position or a new person and they don't seem to go in that direction to even apply, at least you have that backup person that knows the whole entire job. So I feel like that's just as important as succession planning, and
Okay.
you can't really hire somebody and then train them for full-time if you really don't have that full-time
Yeah,
position
I was just
either,
curious.
so.
You had brought that up initially as part of that
It is.
training, but
It is, and,
Yeah.
and should that happen,
Yeah.
this would be an excellent candidate, I'm sure.
So there are two things I hear about this, I hear from this. So at 16 hours right now, this person is learning pieces of the role. However, the learning and then the practice is not consistent, so therefore it's maybe not being, the exercise in itself is not something that they're going to retain a ton because they're not actually using it all the time. The other side of that too is that there's more than enough work to keep this person in the office. Now I want to understand, this isn't just catch-up work where you get to a point and it drops off. This is consistent, everyday, day-to-day process that right now is not getting addressed in the timely fashion that it should be. And that's no knock on you. I just want to hear what you're saying. You're saying that the demand on your time is greater, the work is greater than the demand of the time, the ability that you have as far as time right now in your schedule inside of a week. So adding that up, just simply put, there's more hours in work than there are hours that you're in the building. And so by adding this person, it helps kind of level that out a little bit, and so that these are all getting addressed in a timely fashion.
Yes, yeah, my concern is that there are things that we just can't do on the number of hours that you have right here.
With the understanding, the end game being that the only time this person will truly come on board is in the event that you decide that you want to take a vacation for the rest of the gig, the rest of your days. And then, in which case, we'd have somebody who it'd be seamless. It'd be seamless. It'd be it would never be seamless. We would miss you a whole bunch. But it would be seamless in the sense that we wouldn't feel a pain point, other than the fact that we would have to probably bring somebody in to help that individual the same way we brought somebody in to help you. And I'm sure along the way it gives you an opportunity as well to look at efficiencies, whereas you're always bailing the boat out with a teacup, now you have a little bit of time to actually reflect on how you can fix the boat. So good. I just want to make sure that I was reading that and understanding that right.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Again, to beat the horse that I was beating with Dennis, this would be another one that I would cover underneath the new program if we're asking for in the future years. By all means, those are the kinds of the catch-alls. I would completely support this item. One thing I would counter with the fact that I still argue that I'm not that entertaining. I would like to see minutes actually move towards motion in the second in the vote, not the dialogue that's in between, because we've put the effort into the camera on the wall. She's put considerable effort into archiving that kind of stuff. And the fact is that the joke that every time I leave here to say go home at a decent hour tonight, Twyla, is got to be getting old for her. The fact is, if we can actually come down in what the expectation from us is on her department, it would make it a better reality.
with someone working more time, maybe she can go home earlier, right?
Right.
This thing.
Right.
Chair, may I
Yes,
ask one
please.
question? And
Please.
maybe I heard you wrong, but you said that you were actually doing on dog licensing 50-50, not say exact
was,
50, through mail, then email, but we're going all back to mail. Is that kind of going backwards?
No, there are
Or is
so
there a
many
state requirement?
positives with the Munis system that it's not going backwards. They just don't offer that unless they do, and I don't know how to do it yet. So,
So you're saying that UNIS does not actually offer you the ability to email people?
I don't think so. I haven't seen it yet.
Let's drill down on that. Something, and I'm not saying that you don't have, I would say let's get somebody involved from that side of the house with that question specifically asked, yeah.
It seems like going backwards.
Yeah.
Let's technology should be going the other day.
We
No
do it,
mailing.
we're doing it for the payroll. In fact, this week's payroll, you should be getting an email, so if they can do it in the payroll program.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say,
So,
because they get in the
Twilight-
check stub with that's the first thing they could go, that's redundant.
because the email wasn't set up.
Give them the context,
And
so
we didn't have everybody.
tell them
see
what
it.
your ask is, what you're doing right now. Just say, here's how we do this process right now. Can you show me how I can do this in Munis? And if they come back whether you can't, then I want to know.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, it seems though the idea that, I mean, if we could do 75% by email, we're gaining versus the idea of
I'm
going
all
backwards.
for that.
You know what I mean? But it kind of struck me odd when
So
you
let's
said
make
they
sure-
were going back to a process that we used to do.
Two
but-
pieces.
No, that's where I was living too, is what are we adding that we're not knowing?
Let's put her budget
or pressure
line
on a
item for
department.
mailing
So
increase
by all means.
on there,
It's
so
not-
when we
it's
can
not
cut,
just
we can
the-
figure this out.
It's not just the
See,
postage.
she
it's
had
the
asked for a
idea of
bump in her
manually
mailing.
getting that ready to
Yeah,
post.
we did do that.
Manual.
So
The
you bumped
manual,
it down?
the manual.
No, we bumped it up.
That's what I mean. So I'm saying, let's put that on the revisit list.
Oh.
So if we get an answer from Eunice that we like, which is you can do this by email, then we can reduce that line down again. It's not a huge, but it's
2,200, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would.
Some of that's
manpower
because of
behind
the
doing that, though.
postage going up too.
You'd have more hours for better.
See, I didn't
things.
even live there, I
Okay.
figured with all of the,
all right. I guess I heard that as
all the
only the
absentee
reason
ballots.
being for.
With the,
I would think that with the
dog
explosion of
registration part of
absentee, the
it,
200 would be
like where-
realistic. in
Every
our-
year, yes, yeah.
Justin
Regardless, let's see what
registered.
Eunice says, and then we can always kind of come back.
The new
Sorry?
system puts every animal in a household.
Well, they should.
So then we need to add extra names to the household.
Gotcha.
You used to have an assistant clerk, right, and it was cut out during the
Full-time.
bad time. You're right, so that's what I mean, there used to be a full-time assistant
Right,
clerk.
so we
lost that, so that was, 40 hours, right, if somebody that's gone. So people to understand,
Mhm.
we're trying to get back
No,
to
I
where we used to be,
understand.
with that 6 years ago or something.
Right, yeah. And our jobs have
Times
changed
is
quite a
different
bit,
then.
so.
Yep.
I'm good.
All right.
Thank you, Twyla.
Yes. Thank you, Twyla.
All right, Mr. Manitou.
Town manager.
All right, you want to go to general assistance first? That's
Sure.
EOS. So we got some changes. The wage line is going to be reduced down to 10,652, and then it's going to change 3 more lines, and I'll get you updated figures.
Okay.
I'm going to leave it at the 25,000. We may go over this year. She did have a burial that we don't typically have. Those are pretty rare, but we did have them this year, and that was a big expense for us, but it's not something that happens every year.
What does
So
that
we
cost
think-
for a burial? What would the cost
That
be?
was it was pretty close to 4,000 by the time you paid for the funeral and then the burial itself. But we're under an obligation to do it, and we'll get 70% of that back on the revenue side, so.
So not anything else with general assistance, because you already addressed the wage.
Anyone? Moving
It's
on.
very evil. It could happen.
Moving on. County tax.
Because the county tax, that's.
Nothing to see
We're
here.
not going to pay it this
Yeah.
year. We're just going to see what they do. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
How much
neither
money
is
you got in legal?
One's bigger than the other, let's go.
PSAP fee,
We have
and
more than they do, let's leave it
Good.
at that.
This is the first time it's gone up in a few years, and it's gonna go up probably in the next 3 years. You're gonna see an increase.
And piece up.
That's the proposal that the sheriff brought to the county commissioners. You probably heard it, right?
At what point do we look elsewhere?
We'd
Is
have to
that a
go to
yearly?
another PSAP.
We need to,
Well, there's
on
another
the
one in
need for
town.
the capital improvement plan, Mark needs to be able to loop us in when it's time to be able to be considering other options.
Okay.
If we left it at that, he is gonna be the one that's gonna
Excuse
know
me.
the quickest associated with this.
He'll be the one to ring the bell.
Yep.
And he needs to tell us when it's time.
Okay.
Yes,
Bonds.
I don't believe him. Not gonna pay those either.
No, that's it. We're going to go rogue for the year just to put some money in the bank.
So, yeah, we don't, that's out of our control, but I think within the next couple of years, we have some that might be coming off, hopefully.
Okay, that was fun.
That was
The only
easy.
thing I would have on that one is, where do we stand for financing for a fire truck to the tune of $675
So,
when that bid comes to us? And
right. So I'm getting options right now from the different banks. So what my plan is, because we can use the TIF funds, the way we wrote it, to pay for the fire truck, is to, if we go out to, well, obviously, we're gonna go out to bond, is to pay that debt payment using TIF funds, so that won't have any impact on the budget.
Good.
Because what I was hoping we'd do, if we didn't prepay, by the time this truck was ready, we'd almost have the
full amount.
full amount available to us. So we also have the reserve account as well, so that's the other thing.
Another one coming 2 years right after.
I know, so I don't know that you won't even touch that.
Half dozen of the other.
But if we can, just say it's gonna be, about almost a year before, well, no, actually, if we prepay, so it'll be, next May will be when our first payment will be due, and we'll just use the TIF funds for that.
I'm all about the prepay because that's why I went through HGAC to begin with,
Yeah.
to take the benefit associated with that. I would defer to you when you have a recommendation from the committee, when you present it to us in the May.
Yeah.
With what our options were from what that means to make the financing work.
Okay.
That would be the way that, I don't want to, it's in your discretion, I just
Right.
was concerned without Lydia or associated that as long as we still can make that step happen, so we know what it means for the budget.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's
Obviously,
just-
it will be budgeted under bonds, but then I'm gonna have the revenue on the other side from the TIF, so the net effect will be.
If everybody is good because we allocated the funds to be able to do so for this project, to be able to pay for that, it's gonna be probably a 10-year bond?
I'm looking at 5 and 7 years.
Winner, chicken dinner.
So-
That's
Nice.
better.
I mean,
Ding, ding.
Yeah.
5 and 7. If we
Yeah.
can get by with 5, that'll even be better, so.
Yeah, that would.
That's a short term, but
It is.
it's putting the funds for what we earmarked for.
Dingley, yep.
To be able to benefit the community associated with that seems to make sense to me. We can split hairs and do anything, because what we've also done there is we don't have the ability to be able to say what other infrastructure, so if anybody has anything else for infrastructure, we're gonna have to finance, we're gonna pay for that instead of the fire truck.
Are you missing any more?
Nope, I'm good so far. We ready to move on from bonds to insurance?
Yeah, so insurance, right now, I've built in a 5% increase. I still don't have the renewals. The only thing I do know that's gonna go down is my public officials bond, my bond, because of my recertification as tax collector and first-time certification as treasurer. And the HRA, I still don't know if I'm gonna be able to reduce that. I look back at last year, and we didn't have a whole lot left in that. But part of the reason, too, is we had a lot of changes last year in insurance. We had people that had the buyout and then all of a sudden decided to take the insurance, so I never had any HRA budgeted for them, but
You
it
see
still
more
would
and
come
more
out.
coming up because private insurance is going right out of the roof.
The what now?
Just private insurance, I mean, like ours, we just got a notification, ours is going up 72% this year. So, and that's not uncommon from a lot of.
72%.
Yeah, and without thinking twice of it, and most companies the same, so you're gonna find, that anybody that actually is supposed to be, we were paying for 100% that over this doesn't work, if they're actually a spouse or a family member to a municipality, they're gonna be going,
Thank you.
they're gonna be jumping ship, so you're gonna be seeing any of those holes, I think, in that's been there for years actually being filled in, because the outside world's just going crazy when it comes to insurance. Yep.
Yes.
Deductibles.
Deductible, yeah, 72%, and I've actually called around other people, and it's ranging anywhere from 30 to 70% most
It's not
private
sustainable.
insurances this year. Think about that.
It's not working, is it?
Crazy.
Yep, no, it's not. No one's trying to fix it either, so
No.
Oh, no.
municipalities are gonna start.
Powerful lobby right there.
Yeah,
Powerful lobby in state and in Washington.
yep.
And Moxie is reimbursable for that line, the 1,400, we pay it there because.
We took the,
But the revenue is covered from the Moxie Festival,
right,
again, just with soundbite listening in the corner.
right.
It makes sense because the rain insurance, if we get a washout, quite literally,
Yeah.
we will get the benefit of what we budgeted, which is 28,000 or whatever the figure was for income, so there will be revenues.
Right, that
Money well
expense is
spent.
not here.
Yes,
It's not showing up here in this budget.
right, but the 1,400's here, but the revenue is coming from the Moxie.
That's not, no.
No, it's not listed.
1,400 is.
What is it?
The critical incident, that's for the police department. Remember Chief Hagan was talking about that, the critical incident?
Oh, okay.
That's
Okay.
what that is.
That's
No,
not-
see, no, I have not budgeted the Moxie because I'm taking it right out of the Moxie revenue,
Okay, fair
out of
enough.
that Moxie fund.
That's not what I understood. That's me. I asked a lot of
Good.
questions, I get it.
Good.
I get it.
Okay.
So.
Well, I do have one question about the crime insurance. How is
The
that
what
going?
insurance?
The crime insurance, 1,249, 5268?
Yeah.
1249?
Yeah, don't these people know that we were in the top 10 safest places to live?
Well,
Gonna
what
be
I-
going up.
What I would counter with is she's budgeted an estimate and she hasn't gotten the actual, so it hasn't gotten to that.
Better go down.
It hasn't gotten to them yet.
Yeah.
We're gonna expect it to be less than that.
That's true. All right, there's my bit of funny. Let's move on to legal.
Yeah, so
No,
that,
wait, you hit your 2 hour mark. You tell me what you want.
What is the last one? Just
right.
do it. I'm breaking the rules.
so the legal, we've done a lot in this past year. You know how busy we've been, and we've had to rely on Dan for a lot of different things. So I've increased that by 10,000 for 2 reasons. One is we're gonna be going back into union negotiations, starting in the spring again for 3 contracts. And then also, if you end up putting on a referendum question to have a charter commission, you do have to have legal for that, and it has to be separate from our legal. So, I mean, we can't use Dan for that, so.
No, it's fine. I think it's something that we talked about as part of our goals. I think it's time to revisit the charter. We have some changes that certainly I think we all have interest in, and plus having a charter commission to come along and refresh. We all know the changes that have been made. So let's go ahead and I mean, chime in now if somebody else is not feeling there's a need for a charter commission. Anyone?
It's just one of those things where I think it's not sure if you've already had a workshop. There's a lot more involved in that. I mean, in the sense of what are our end goals and what's our hopes and the necessary or the wanted changes. I think is going to be just once you open that door, it's not a small door. You open up to a big pasture.
You open it up to a totally different group.
Totally different group that actually.
Them, but they're gonna go through it.
Yeah, they'll go through it, and they could actually, and I'm not saying that it shouldn't, but it all depends how diverse this group is. They could actually make a lot more changes. Once it goes through, it goes through. I mean, it's no backing up saying we don't want to do this anymore. So I think you really got to have a good idea of what your expectations are, what your concerns are, and what you feel would need to be changed.
Right, and I think that that's why I asked Diane to slate a workshop. We're meeting once in July and once in August, and the July workshop will be before our regular meeting in July that we have. So that'll be a great opportunity at that time to talk about some of the stuff. I already know of 2 things that I want to move on, and I've been pretty vocal about them.
They can actually be done without having a charter commission, though.
It's beyond that. Actually, I think I've gone to Dan. It's not just about making a slight tweak that we can kind of get around that. It requires a charter commission to be able to make that change. And it's not a secret. I'm not trying to hide it. It's directly related to why I sit on this council because of the trouble we had with the school, specifically not listening to the residents.
Can you provide us the detail that Dan provided of what the difference between a minor tweak to the charter and the major?
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Get it to firm?
Yep.
Because we
I
get,
sent you out an email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
as long as you've seen it.
Yeah.
There is a line.
I think I mean, again, I would want to, have a workshop where we really kind of just wait it all, and the idea of actually having a previous charter commission to come in, and actually there's a few well-spoken people that served on that actually could give us an idea of what boundaries actually, because it could go totally different than what you're looking for. It actually could make it a lot more restrictive.
Well,
you mean, and without you wouldn't have a choice at that point in time. That actually just goes through and gets ratified after. You mean so?
I think that we get the opportunity to go ahead and give the input along with that commission. So I think that the key here is that we open it up with the understanding that there's a reason for that to be open, and we'll talk about some of the deficiencies. You're right. Putting it in the Charter Commission's hand, and I welcome the opportunity to hear from anybody who sat on the Charter Commission. So I think it's only going to give us the insight that we need to decide if that's a lever that we want to pull.
It's kind of like to me, it's kind of like a posted speed limit. You can actually have the state come look at your road to see if that speed limit would actually be reduced. But if it proves that the speed limit should go up, it goes up. You don't have any control over that. So, I mean, just because you open the dialogue with an intent of changing something one way, when this whole process goes through, it
No
could be-
guarantees.
it could actually be even more restrictive than it was originally.
Right.
You really have no control over it at that point in time because,
How old's the charter?
you know, there's just a lot of things that actually could change, that's all.
Right.
2005, the charter
could that
was
mean?
6.
So,
Started it in
and
four,
my
probably
understanding was that,
It's quite a few years old. I
You
don't.
don't usually do charter commissions very often. I mean, usually it's a change of government. So I mean, I think we've had one in the last 50 years, 100 years. Yeah. So
now,
it's not like the rebound.
again, I know that the thing that drove us to get here
Yeah.
was the fact that there was a large segment of this community's citizens who made a clear message that this is not acceptable, and there was no recourse. The recourse that was in the charter, from a legal opinion, didn't allow that mechanism to move forward, and that's just not the way the government is meant to be. So this isn't about changing one aspect only to meet a need to serve a school population. This is about righting a wrong. This is not the will of the people. There wasn't I hated that. I hated hearing special interest groups and it being twisted into something that it was not. It was quite simply enough people in this community coming together and voice their concerns, trying to use legal recourse through the charter, and at every turn being stymied. It's just not acceptable. And I'm willing to go the next step and plead the case of that and let the Charter Commission go ahead and verify it and see if it passes a straight face test to say this is absolutely right. This is an area that we definitely need to address.
Because the referendum question or method actually came after our charter. So the fact is,
Right.
they actually upset that.
The cart before the cart before the horse.
That was the point. But where I was going to land on this topic in general is the fact is, I remember 3 years ago what the legal budget was. I just want to make sure we're not ratcheting it back up to that level that we're relying on a crutch that we weren't actually undo. I mean, we have educated people here. I'm leveraging our resident person with legal experience. The fact is, to read a legal opinion, I shouldn't be paying $145 an hour. I just wanted to make sure we weren't doing that. For what we have here, I'm okay with the increase for the 10 for 8 protection purposes.
Yeah,
I think you need to put it in place. It's just, I would want.
What do we intend to do with it?
What's the intent? I mean, if yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, even I mean, I sat through a lot of that on the outside looking, and was very amazed at the process. And as everything goes in the world, I think a lot of times legal views get actually directed in the way they want to be directed. So it'd be one of those things where I'd be just curious if some of that was looked at today and it was actually come out to the same result. I'm not saying it's bad in either way. It's just one of those things where it.
I think it's I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's important because of the way that the referendum piece versus the way the charter came in, and how that particular timing of those two pieces has caused some serious concerns for me on how the constituents in this community get represented. Because all it took was a very simple and narrow-minded viewpoint, in my opinion,
You're absolutely
to
right.
really upset the apple cart. And not only do we spend all that money in legal, how many times did we go to vote on this?
Exactly.
And how much did it cost us every time we went?
Yeah, with both sides, legal.
Yeah.
Both sides.
So, I mean, it doesn't matter where you land on whether you landed on the school side, or the municipality, or the council side. The reality is, as a taxpayer, both your pockets are out like this. So that's really where I landed on that. It's not about it's not about sides in this one. It's about, we didn't do any of the citizens in this community as a great service.
Checks and balances are not in place.
Yeah, a big disservice on the other hand.
Well,
all
things
that
have
money that got
changed
spent.
and things are outdated and.
Yep.
A common sense approach to that would have simply, if there was a simple mechanism in the charter that would have gone through, that would have been challenged, it would have gone through a proper process, and if the folks that were challenging met the criteria in the charter and had the ability to override, they would have overridden it, and the process would have sailed right on, no problem. But that didn't happen, and then all of a sudden, because of the nature of the language in the charter, it caused all this additional expense, heartache, aggravation, divided a community. We don't ever need to do that again. We need to fix that. And what that looks like is starting the process to see, to your point, this is something we can do not just to fix that one piece, are there other areas of the charter that that might need to be addressed too? So if we could do it with just an amendment, the smaller piece of that, I'd be all over that. But I think there might be I think in my particular piece that I'm kind of championing and running with, I know that Dan had said that that's something that's going to require our charter commission to do.
So you're taking power from one form to putting it on the voters.
And again, I'm just one mind on this. We get together in a workshop. If you guys feel that there's no value in it,
well, the one thing that I would actually say is the fact that does the upcoming question 3 on the June vote actually tie our hands for another 3 years, so we're wasting energy.
right? That'll be the other side of this. We come out of that.
If the town says clearly they want to go 3 more years with the way that referendum comes, then the charter commission may be a moot point.
Exactly. So we're talking about putting something in place that we may not even have to use. Right. But I think it's worth putting it on for discussion.
To that point.
Or alternatively, if they vote to get rid of that vote, then I think it would revert to the way it was written in the charter originally. Then it goes out. So then there's a question of, do you really need to change the charter if it already works because you removed the problem piece there?
It sounds to me like the cheaper way of the process is to actually educate the majority of the voters are going to go in November of how this early ought to play out.
I agree. Well, June. It's not November. It's June.
June. Yeah.
I agree with you.
Hey,
listen.
This
I will run up and down Main Street with a banner if that's going to take to get that done.
But again, to Norm's point,
yeah,
public faith, when that last one through 3 years ago, was not going to happen, and the players associated with that, and they've seen how quickly the power associated with 7 may actually be abused.
Oh, absolutely.
Or perceived to be.
Yeah.
Perceived to be.
Yeah, perception. But to go back to the point, the idea that we put that in place, we have this open discussion for the light up in the corner, is that people understand that if we don't look at the referendum vote seriously on that particular item and look at that as a viable way to kind of circumvent the problems that we had previously, then it's a long, drawn-out, costly process.
Yeah, I mean, that could happen at any point. I mean, especially the downturn of the economy, it's basically everybody struggles for what still gets fed and what don't.
And well, it's not only that, but it's just that if we don't solve it, in June, then we have to look at solving it in July.
4% more. Right.
Thank you for going over minutes.
We're going to take 10 minutes off next time. Just
all right.
You know.
So, motion to adjourn. Craig.
Can't make a
Covering.
Can't vote.
Public Works.
Okay, I'm voting.
No, we're going to put you ahead of the next meeting.
Yes, town manager and then Public Works. And
Okay, that's what I needed to know.
if you do decide to do the charter,
Say do.
wait and see what the vote is in June, how that is.
I'll help you this time.
We have to have everything. No later than 7. Because we only have one.
Oh, I see. Right up against. We're up against.
Or against the time frame again.
That's right. Because it's got to go for referendum in November. Okay, so let's.